The Spinster of South Street by R. F. Delderfield, adapted for radio by Cynthia Pooh, produced by Betty Davies. Florence Nightingale's relentless fight to improve nursing and medical services after her return from the Crimea. Known as the Lady with the Lamp, she was a British nurse, social reformer and statistician, best known as the founder of modern nursing.
The Spinster of South Street.
Yes, madam?
Ah, Temperance. Is my niece asleep?
Oh, no, Mrs. Smith. Dr. Sutherland's in there reading a booklet to her.
What sort of booklet?
Oh, something about dysentery, ma'am.
Oh, that fool of a doctor. What good will he ever do her?
Oh, it isn't Dr. Sutherland's fault, ma'am. She threatened to get out of bed and fetch it if he wouldn't read it to her. Oh, she has been difficult today. Don't you think another doctor?
Oh, what doctor exists that couldn't be coiled round her little finger in 2 minutes? No, Sutherland's the best of a bad job. At least he's one of us and in a position to shout at her. Take that tray away.
Yes,
and then help me to tidy the room. It isn't fit to receive cannibals, let alone cabinet ministers.
Yes, ma'am.
Comparative statistics of adult mortality in the West Riding. 15% industrial workers never reach age of 37. 37. I wonder if she'll get that far herself. Ah, Dr. Sutherland.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Smith.
How is she?
About the same. I had to read a chapter of Oriental epidemics before she'd even promised to rest.
Oh, we can't let her burn herself out like this.
Sometimes I wonder whether she'll burn us out first.
Ever since she returned from the Crimea, she's been goading herself along the road to complete collapse. She can't go on indefinitely.
That's what I used to say at Scutari. I remember coming ashore dog-tired and getting my first glimpse of her. She was helping one of the butchers perform an amputation. I had a physical shock when I saw her face. It was a living death's head. 6 hours later, I took some letters into her office. She'd been writing reports, 12 foolscap pages of them. I said to myself, she can't last a week. And that was over 2 years ago. Hello, here's Sidney Herbert's carriage.
She ought to have had a long holiday immediately she returned. Instead of that, she posts off to Scotland to plague the Queen and Lord Panmure into starting a royal commission.
She says the public are behind her now. In 6 months, they'd forget her.
Fiddlesticks, they won't ever forget her.
No, but I see what she means. Public opinion is her deadliest weapon, and time blunts it all too quickly.
Dr. Sutherland, I believe you encourage her obstinacy.
She doesn't need any encouragement, Mrs. Smith. I'm thinking she's the most pig-headed female God's made since he salted Lot's wife.
Lord Herbert is below, ma'am.
Very well, show him up. No, tidy up these papers. I'll bring him up here myself.
Oh, here, Temperance, you've dropped one. Oh, what is it? Ground plan of proposed military hospital at Netley. Interested in hospitals, Temperance?
No, sir. No, not really. They make for so much untidiness.
By George, you're right. Besides, they stink.
Not Miss Nightingale's hospital, sir.
Oh, yes, Temperance, even Miss Nightingale's, for the first day or two. Don't want to be a nurse, I suppose?
Lord, no, sir. I faint at the sight of blood.
I expect Miss Nightingale did, until she saw it in torrents.
Oh, no, sir. Miss Nightingale wouldn't faint. She's a lady. Besides, she's different.
Different. Aye, that's it. Different.
Come in, Sidney.
Ah, John, delighted to see you.
And I, you, Sidney. Welcome to the little war cabinet.
Is that what they call us?
Not us, Sidney. We're only orderlies. Is the Secretary for War really coming?
Ultimately. Today he's sending Dr. Andrew Smith, Chief of the Army Medical Department. Smith is to discuss the agenda for next week's committee meeting.
How does she do it? A woman, not even married, a permanent invalid, apparently dying. Yet she makes the most pig-headed old buffers in British politics dance attendance on her.
I hope they know Florence won't be present at the preliminary discussion.
But surely there's no point in the meeting if Florence doesn't attend.
I think there is. We'll get far more out of the Army Medical Department if they know there's a door between her and the conference. And what's a door to the Lady General? Tell me, Sidney, you knew her as a girl. Was she quite such a dragon then?
Bless you, no. The power was there, the intensity. But they did something to her out there, John. She came back from Scutari tempered. Clear thinking, qualified in every way, but somehow so ruthless, ice-cold, bitter.
You can't watch men die from sheer departmental inefficiency and hang on to your old standard of values, Sidney.
You did, John.
I'm an old guest of death. She was late at the feast. Hello, here's Clough.
Good afternoon, Lord Herbert.
Good day to you, Arthur. You look tired.
I am tired. Dog tired. I didn't get to bed until 3 a.m., and I was up at 6:30 getting ready for today.
What kept you up that late?
She did. Couldn't sleep herself and didn't see why he should.
Write any verses these days, Arthur?
Never.
You ought to scoop a hole in the day somewhere. You'll be getting rusty.
I am rusty, Lord Herbert. When I try and write, I creak. The first lines seem good, and then it tails off into mere jingle.
Come now, Arthur, that's nonsense. Why, even Flo admits you're a fine poet.
He might have been if she hadn't laid hands on him. If you work with her, you gallop at her pace, not your own. She's in that room now, making a statistical table on the causes of death among the native populations of Bombay and Madras.
You oughtn't to let her work now, John.
You try and stop her.
Use your authority. Put her under some sort of restraint.
Restraint? The only thing that would restrain her is a straitjacket. And even then she'd begin investigating the sanitary conditions of asylums.
But if she were to die...
Don't say that.
We should all be back at the starting point in 24 hours.
She knows that better than any of us, but try and drive it home to her. She'll tell you that her ill health is the reason for this urgency.
Does she contemplate the possibility of death soon?
Not really, no. When I threatened her yesterday, she said she'd outlive us all by 30 years.
And your opinion as a medical man? Honestly now.
Physically, she should have died in the Crimea, and several times since. But she seems to live on nervous energy, and there are no limits to her reserves. Sometimes I think she'll pass away in her sleep. Other times I think she isn't ill at all.
Not ill. Come now, John.
Not ill at all, just masquerading in order to get more privacy.
She doesn't only use her own vitality. She draws on others, Lord Herbert.
Why, bless you, Arthur, she isn't a vampire.
Not a vampire. Then why do I come out of that room of hers feeling as though I'd given a pint of blood and a year of my life at each session? How is it that I can't write about anything except septic tanks and sewers and death rates and plague since I first surrendered? What's happened to my conception of art, beauty, and literature? Why do I despise myself for ever wanting to translate these things in terms of words alone?
If you have a mission of that nature, Arthur, I'm not at all sure you shouldn't leave us and fulfill it.
That's the rub, Lord Herbert. I haven't such a mission any longer. She took charge of it and substituted sordid reality for beautiful dreams. New lamps for old. Hygiene for the Hesperides.
She put pity in place of it. Don't forget that, Arthur.
There's a carriage outside now. Temperance.
It'll be Dr. Smith.
Did you call me, Mum?
Show the gentleman upstairs. Leave his cloak in the lobby.
Yeah, very good, Mum.
I could still tell him Florence is too ill to be disturbed.
She won't be disturbed, I promise you.
Thank you, Lord Herbert. I can trust you.
In here, sir.
Oh, thank you. Good morning, gentlemen.
Dr. Smith, this is uncommonly good of you. Dr. Sutherland, you met, of course.
Yes,
How do you do, Sutherland?
Mr. Arthur Clough, Miss Nightingale's secretary.
How do you do?
We may as well be seated, gentlemen. Dr. Smith, will you sit here next to me?
Thank you. Sutherland, we haven't seen you at Whitehall in months. Where do you hibernate these days?
In here, mostly. Haven't had a minute's freedom since my lord here sent me to that infernal Turkish abattoir. Miss Nightingale sees to that.
I hear the good lady's been indefatigable. You mustn't put too great a strain on her, you know. We never know when there's another Crimea around the corner.
Miss Nightingale is gravely indisposed, Dr. Smith.
I'm sorry to hear it. Am I to understand that she cannot attend today?
I'm afraid not.
Oh, then an indefinite postponement would be the best thing.
Miss Nightingale would, I feel certain, be greatly opposed to any further delay. We have all the necessary data for the discussion of the principal problem.
I see no reason why we shouldn't proceed with preliminaries. What do you say, Smith?
As you wish. There's no harm in mere discussion.
Good. Well, you are aware, of course, that on her return, Miss Nightingale approached the Secretary for War with a request for some sort of commission to determine how to reform military nursing based on her observations in the Crimea.
Reform it?
Everyone associated with nursing the sick and wounded in the Crimea came home determined to expose certain lamentable inadequacies in our present system.
Lord Herbert, gentlemen, let there be no misunderstanding. As Chief of the Military Medical Department, I must tell you that I and my colleagues resent the implication that the system needs shielding from the light of public investigation.
Dr. Smith, it must be clear, even in Whitehall, that the system needs dragging into the open by its ears, that Britain might see what a monstrously evil thing it really is.
Dr. Sutherland, I object to that statement. As Chief...
Gentlemen, please. Let us have done with recriminations and learn from the mistakes of the past. Miss Nightingale has already been promised a royal commission.
In principle, but we've no intention of conducting a public inquest on governmental errors which must inevitably occur when an empire of this size goes to war.
Precisely. What we are here to determine is the personnel of the Board of Inquiry, and Mr. Clough has a list of Miss Nightingale's nominees.
Her nominees are Dr. William Farr, General Stork, Mr. Augustus Stafford, and Dr. John Sutherland.
But I was given to understand that the commission was to consist of army medical men only. Dr. Sutherland's services as a sanitary expert are widely known, but his official and medical experience hardly justify his inclusion on a body of this importance.
Miss Nightingale feels that medical and sanitary problems are closely interlocked.
Oh, this is quite ridiculous. If there's to be an inquiry at all, we feel that the board must be exclusively composed of permanent members of the military medical staff.
But those are the very people who stop at nothing to mask the true facts, Dr. Smith.
Dr. Sutherland, I most bitterly resent the implication behind that remark.
Of course you do, Dr. Smith, because it is the very beginning of the truth.
Florence, I beg of you.
This is gross disobedience.
Go away, both of you. I'm not going to let a door stand between me and my plans.
Whatever Miss Nightingale may say to the contrary, it must be obvious that she's in no condition to discuss these projects. Later, perhaps...
Later, always later. That's what they said in Scutari when I asked for necessities. All in good time, Miss Nightingale. But men didn't die in good time. They died all the time, every minute of the night and day, when a word from some stupid ape in Whitehall could have saved the lives of 80%. Do you know what I call that? Murder. And premeditated murder. Inasmuch as the officials responsible could not be such fools as to be unaware of the consequences of their folly.
Perhaps we could revert to what we were discussing before Miss Nightingale came in. Nominees for the Board of Inquiry. So far, none of us is clear as regards the functions of this inquiry.
I am quite clear, and have gone so far as to tabulate the remedies.
Oh, come, my dear lady. You don't decide to hang a man before he's been found guilty.
Frankly, Dr. Smith, I would cheerfully hang every hidebound official who stood between me and immediate reform in this matter.
Oh, Florence, please.
The commission will recommend the election of 4 subcommittees.
4 subcommittees?
A committee to put imperial barracks in a sanitary condition. B, a committee to organize a statistical department within the Army Medical Service. C, a committee to establish an Army Medical School. And D, a committee to revise the Army Medical Department from top to bottom.
I'll have no hand in this preposterous and mischievous design.
You may do as you wish, Dr. Smith. But I shall remind you that I have obtained the earnest support of Her Majesty and the Prince Consort.
At this stage, Florence, we must agree to compromise.
There can be no compromise. Either the commission is set up on this basis, or I shall publish my diary, which will, I don't doubt, bring the entire government about your department's ears.
This is fantastic. A department of Her Majesty's services being threatened like a common malefactor. Miss Nightingale, I beg you to excuse me. Perhaps when you're in a less agitated frame of mind...
I shall never be calmer than I am today, Dr. Smith, and never more determined.
Am I to understand that you too hold these extreme views, my lord?
My views in this are identical with those of Miss Nightingale, Dr. Smith.
Thank you, Sidney.
I'm sorry. Good day, Miss Nightingale.
I'll see you downstairs.
Arthur, make a précis of the discussion, will you? Have it ready tonight.
Very well, Florence.
Oh, dear.
Florence, you've overtaxed your strength. All right, my dear. I got you. Lie down here on the divan. That's right.
I'm so sorry. It was a sudden weakness. I'm better now.
Florence, you've got a devil in your heart.
A devil? Perhaps, Sidney. But God put it there.
Here's another report, Doctor. One we missed.
What's the journal?
One of the new fashion papers, the Distaff Sun.
Oh, good heavens.
Came out early last week. Look, July 1857.
Go on, Aunt May, read it.
Miss Nightingale did not appear in any way overawed by the majesty of the proceedings, and appeared also to be quite unconscious of the fact that she was the first member of the weaker sex, weaker indeed, to take an active part in the inquiry. This in a woman of lesser...
Well, go on.
Well, then, it gives a full description of what she wore.
What she what?
Wore. Clothes, you old buffer.
What the devil's that got to do with it?
The people who read this sort of paper will positively revel in the description.
And it's an awful pity I didn't give my evidence in the kilt.
What else does it say?
Deportment.
Aye?
Her deportment was exemplary. Supremely self-possessed, she was in no way unbecoming to her sex. Speaking in well-modulated, gentle tones, which made the maximum impression on all present, she presented facts gleaned in the harrowing field of experience, and having presented them, one felt she was confident to leave her assembly to the wider judgment of the men.
Have the goodness to burn that rubbish, John Sutherland.
Burn it? Not I. If you don't appreciate its true value, I do.
And what praise the value of a spurious piece of nonsense like that?
The French have a word for it, Florence. Camouflage.
Camouflage, John. Please explain.
However much you may object, Florence, in the England of today, you will get further in the role of tender, submissive, inspired little woman than you can ever hope to get as an Amazon. Amazons, hoydens, if you like, are not fashionable. This is still outwardly a man's world.
That's good advice, John. Thank you. Why are you holding your head like that, Arthur?
It's my eyes, Florence. When employed on close work, they ache horribly.
Indeed. You must get your spectacles. Hurry up with those proofs. I shall need them for Lord Herbert's inaugural committee meetings.
Very well.
Did you call on your mamma, Florence?
No, I did not. Social calls must wait. I did, however, get all the information I required.
On the infirmaries?
Infirmaries? Oh, fiddlesticks. That paper's already at the printer.
Oh.
When did you correct the proofs?
Last night, of course.
Florence, that must have occupied you 3 hours.
1 hour and 3/4. There's nothing wrong with my eyes.
But I forbade you to...
Here are the final plans of the military hospital Netley on Southampton Water.
By George, that's splendid.
Judge for yourself whether they're splendid or not. If a building is erected on that plan, it would be Scutari in Hampshire. The fools. What have they learned? Sick and convalescent rooms without any more ventilation than a dungeon, and every patient's window facing northeast.
These plans are passed, and the work's in hand. What can we do now?
The Prime Minister shall tell us that.
You'll be lucky if you get an appointment with Pam. His government's tottering, and he's got bigger fish to fry.
Sidney is bringing him here within the next half hour.
Lord Palmerston coming here?
Why not?
But he's the Prime Minister.
And if the care of the military sick is not the concern of the Prime Minister, Aunt May, I should like to know whose business it is.
Very idea.
Now, stop dithering, woman. Go and make yourself presentable for Pam.
I'm not going to receive it.
John and I will receive him. Arthur, take your work into the annex. Aunt May shall read out to you. You'll write more quickly.
Very well, Florence.
Good gracious, I almost forgot. There's a young woman downstairs waiting to see you.
I won't see anyone without an appointment. Let her write like everyone else.
She has written. You tore up her letter. She's called 11 times in 5 days.
Oh, yes, I remember. A stupid notion to become a nurse.
You had just such a stupid notion yourself not 100 years ago, Florence.
I did, John Sutherland. But before I began to pester busy people, I trained in the profession to a certain degree of proficiency. Moreover, I prayed to God every night for guidance.
Perhaps this young woman has done these things.
Nonsense. I passed her in the hall. She was far too fashionably dressed to have prayed for anything but a handsome husband. Send her away, please, Henri.
All right, I will.
Poor Aunt May. You bully her unmercifully.
When she needs it. She'd let any stage-struck hussy in here. Now I must pretty myself for the part, John.
Ah, me. I sometimes say to myself, John Sutherland, how does it come that you submit to petticoat government half a century before your fellow countrymen?
Dear John, you're a real help. You and Sidney.
Aye, but I sometimes feel a bit worried over Sidney. He's looking very pale and sickly these days.
Nonsense. All Englishmen with incomes over 2,000 a year have pale complexions. It's a statistical fact.
I'll not argue about statistics with you, Flo. You've too big a start on a man. I'll away and help Arthur until Pam shows up.
Very well, John. I'll send Temperance for you when he arrives.
Well, I'm in. Where is she, I wonder? Oh, dear, I wish I weren't so nervous. Oh, pull yourself together, Margaret Douglas. She can't eat you. Oh,
How did you get in here? Who are you?
please, I beg of you, give me 2 minutes before you put me out.
Come over here. No, come on. I won't eat you, child.
Oh, Miss Nightingale,
Yes, I know. You want to be a nurse and watch by the bedside of shattered young heroes. Oh, I can guess the reason. Your ego, diverted by some trifling incident, a tiff with papa, a lover's quarrel perhaps, is taking an unconventional course, which happens to present itself in nursing simply because nursing is getting a good deal of sentimental publicity just now. What do the women of Britain take me for? An imperial safety valve? No. Sit down. You have a letter of recommendation, I believe.
From General Stork. Here it is.
Of good family, sound physique, inspired by your work in the Crimea, and so on and so on. Do you know what is expected of a nurse, young woman?
I want to begin at the beginning, Miss Nightingale.
You could hardly begin anywhere else. What facilities have I got for training in this Augean stables of an empire?
Well, they told me you were contemplating a school of nurses at St. Thomas's Hospital.
And supposing I am, how long would a woman of your milieu stand the rigors of such an exacting life?
Well, General Stork led me to believe you preferred women of good family, Miss Nightingale.
Yes, providing they dedicate their lives to the work in the same spirit of resolve and renunciation one expects of a nun taking final vows, and providing they have nothing in their past or present to distract their purpose. Can this be said of you?
Yes, Miss Nightingale.
You have no attachments, no desire for marriage, children?
No, Miss Nightingale, none.
None now. What of the past?
It's all behind me.
Aha! I was right. Miss Douglas, you have a broken heart. We cannot place confidence in broken hearts. They mend too quickly.
I had plans for a marriage, but I renounced them voluntarily. There was no quarrel, no obstacle, nothing to prevent a secure and conventional alliance. I put it aside. I defied my parents, my friends, my fiancé. I did it because I knew about you.
Don't imagine I can't understand, child. I was 34 before I screwed up courage to fly in the face of convention. But I did it with my eyes wide open. I studied nursing in secret for years.
You would find me equally indefatigable, Miss Nightingale.
Yes, the spirit is willing enough, I can see that. But there's more required of the flesh than even an enthusiast could dream. Could you empty the slops of 500 verminous men every day for 6 months? Could you distract a man's attention while a surgeon sawed through the shattered bone of his leg? These are some of the things we nurses have to do. It's no life for a weakling.
If I were a weakling, I should never have got so far as this room.
No, that's true. Leave your address with my secretary, Mr. Clough, on the way down. I'll write to you when to report to St. Thomas's. In the meantime, study this handbook. Know it by heart by the time we meet again.
Oh, Miss Nightingale, you'll never regret it.
I hope not. The rest depends on yourself.
You rang, miss?
Yes, Temperance. Show this young lady downstairs.
Goodbye, Miss Nightingale.
Goodbye. Oh, Temperance.
Yes, miss?
Send for the carpenters and have them fit a lock on the backstairs door. The public are beginning to mistake this room for a museum.
Oh, well, very good, miss.
Who was that?
A very practical dreamer, John.
I see. I came up to tell you I saw Sidney and Pam arrive. They'll be here in a moment. Do you mind if I stay?
I should like a word or two with Pam alone. Give Sidney the hint.
Another little plot?
No, John, nothing to be ashamed of. But Sidney won't canvass. He's too proud or too timid. So I must do it for him. Besides, I can't act in front of Sidney.
Aye. The Lord was having a nap when he let Sidney Herbert wed anyone but you.
Dr. Sutherland, how dare you say such?
Oh, excuse me, miss, but Lord Herbert, it was another gentleman. He says to tell you it's the Prime Minister.
Show them in, Temperance. Lord Herbert is telling the truth.
Oh, very well, miss.
Never say that again, John. Never, never.
Forget it. I'm an old fool. Maybe the thought's been there too long.
Bury it. Kill it. Now, here. What a weapon it would make for our enemies. It's a fantastic notion. Quite fantastic.
Lord Palmerston, miss, and Lord Herbert.
This is a great honor, my lord.
Come, Florence, keep the poses for the unconquered. It is from me that the courtesy should come. My heartiest congratulations, my dear. I intend to kiss you.
Sidney. Yes, John. She wants a word with him alone. I see. Well, I'll do what I can.
That report of yours is the finest thing of its kind we've ever had.
Yes, it's a fine report, my lord.
It is indeed. I suppose you know you sent all the army doctors into hiding, young lady.
I did hear it whispered that some of them were suffering from gout, my lord.
Is that what they call it? I must remember the malady when my government is forced out of office. Seriously, though, Florence, your commission has stirred a hornet's nest in Whitehall. Why, even the clerks are plucking up sufficient courage to ask for a new quill when there's at least a week's wear left in the old one. And now, I believe, you intend taking a holiday.
That, my lord, depends on you.
On me? Herbert, old fellow, will you explain?
Florence will do her own explaining, my lord. I'll leave you to her. Come, Sutherland.
What thunderbolt may we expect now, Florence?
I wanted you to have a look at this plan, my lord.
Ah, Netley Hospital. Ha-ha. Well, I'm ahead of you. Work is about to begin on the building. We have learned some of your Napoleonic tactics, Florence.
My lord, in this case, I urge caution rather than speed.
Caution? You?
This entire plan is outmoded. We have alternative plans, superior in every respect.
Oh, maybe, but this is a War Office concern, and you are still officially unrecognized in every sphere but nursing.
Is a hospital outside the sphere of nursing? As it stands, this building is more the concern of the prison commissioners. My lord, it was you who prevailed upon Papa to give me my initial opening. Tell me, have I not justified that faith?
No man ever saw a richer or a quicker return on an investment, Florence.
Then I beseech you now, exert your powerful influence to stop work on Netley until we have rallied sufficient support to establish our alternative plans.
Yes, you're asking a great deal, Florence. The work is so far forward, estimates, contracts.
I know it, and I do so without apologies.
You're quite sure of your views in this matter?
Utterly, utterly sure.
Oh, very well. Work shall not begin for 6 months.
Oh, my lord. Have we your pledge?
You have my pledge.
Thank God. Now I can rest.
Well, you understand, of course, that no word of this gets abroad.
Discretion was one of our earliest lessons, my lord.
This is strictly unorthodox, of course. I shouldn't even be here talking to you.
Unorthodoxy is the hallmark of true greatness. You have given posterity one more proof of your statesmanship.
Come.
And tonight I shall thank my Maker that Lord Palmerston was Prime Minister when he, who is aware of all, summoned me to the task.
From anyone else, that would have sounded sanctimonious.
Coming from you, I cannot conceive a greater compliment. You've made me proud, Florence. Proud of my judgment and proud to help. Well, I must go. So much to do. Goodbye, child. Don't trouble to ring. I'll find my way down.
Pam,
Yes?
you aren't really on my side, you know. I'm an outsider at Whitehall, even to you.
You're a woman, Florence. Got to resist that, you know. But I'm not on their side either. I like your tactics. I learn a good deal from them.
And the Nepsi project, you won't go away and forget us.
I gave you my word, didn't I? You can ask anyone on the continent whether I'm in the habit of breaking it. Good day, dear.
Oh, dear Pam. Oh, there you are, Sidney. Well, I played him and landed him. We have 6 months' grace. Well, show a little pleasure. Congratulate me. What is it, Sidney?
Why did you persuade John Sutherland to get me out of the way while the PM was here?
Oh, that. Oh, come, Sidney, don't behave like a petulant schoolboy.
I should like to know, Florence.
Very well, I'll tell you. It was because Pam's a big collie who goes through the hoops much better if he thinks he's the only dog in the ring.
Sometimes I think you would get more done on your own.
Sidney, this is ridiculous. Don't you see? Pam's business here was strictly unofficial. He could never have been won over in the presence of another public figure. You know my methods.
I can't always approve of your methods, Florence.
Because they are not in keeping with the accepted codes of behavior for a gently born woman, I suppose.
No, not just that. Because backstairs politics have a habit of recoiling unexpectedly. It's sometimes better to work in the open. At least you know what you're up against.
Come out into the open yourself, Sidney Herbert. This is a smokescreen to cover wounded vanity.
No.
Then why this carping?
I hate to see you playing charades with a man. It isn't worthy of you, Flo. Why don't you go on being yourself like you were with the medical board? That was fire, spirit, nobility. So much better than the donning of these successive masks for one-man audiences.
They are part of the play, Sidney. Believe me, I know what I'm about. I have to pretend to let men take the reins. Sutherland understands and approves.
To John Sutherland, you're a brilliant commander-in-chief. To me, you're a woman, Florence.
You see so much more than the others. To be truthful, that's why I saw Pam alone. I can't act when you're watching the play.
I see.
Don't change, will you, Sidney?
I'll always be the woman of our partnership, Florence.
What does it matter? We both know we shall arrive with a roll of drums that will echo around the world. Believe it, Sidney. We are the vanguard of progress, order, real civilization. And God's purpose is working through us.
Dear Flo, why did God surround you by such little people?
Come in, Peter Village.
Thank you, Mom.
Just wait here for a moment and I'll see if Miss Nightingale's in the annex. I can't imagine where that fuzzy Temperance has gone. She should have shown you up.
Temperance? The little maid with the pearl teeth. Here?
Yes, Temperance, the little maid with the... Peter Grillage, you rascal. And Temperance. God bless her soul, I'm beginning to understand. No wonder she left me to answer the door. Temperance and a foreigner. Huh. Just wait until Miss Nightingale hears about this. She'll pearly teeth the pair of you, I can assure you. Temperance! Temperance!
Touch her. I'll be back in a moment, Miss Florence. Did you call Mrs. Smith, Mom? Oh, she's not in.
No, but I am. Oh, my little Temperance.
How dare you kiss me? How dare you?
Miss Party, she sent me. She say, Peter tell Miss Florence I buy at shop. I know I see you if I come, so I reported all the way. Oh, Temperance.
Peter, you mustn't kiss me. Well, not here anyway. Look, Miss Florence is in there dressing.
Then we whisper.
Oh, no, we don't. Now, listen, Peter. I mustn't stay here. Look, if Miss Florence caught me with you, I'd get dismissed. And I a shame into the bargain. Now, bigger boy, you stay here. I'll tell Miss Florence you've got a message from her sister.
No. Peter not see his Temperance. Want to 3 months.
Oh, I can see you later. Any time.
You come back?
Yes, I promise.
Another kiss. Then I'll let you go for a little time.
Oh, very well. Hurry up, then.
What is this?
Oh, Miss
Florence, Temperance, come back here at once.
Yes, miss?
Now then, will one of you have the goodness to explain this extraordinary scene?
Miss Parthenope, she sent me to say she comes.
Never mind my sister Parthenope, Peter Goodrich. What relationship exists between you and my maid?
Not understand.
Come, you understand me very well. Don't pretend I wasted my time teaching you English. Has he proposed marriage to you, Temperance?
Marriage? Oh, Miss Nightingale.
Come now, Temperance. From what I know of you, he certainly wouldn't have made that much progress without some sort of declaration of his intentions.
Oh, Miss Nightingale.
Oh, Miss Nightingale. It's intolerable, this mock modesty among English women of all classes. Peter Goodrich, I want you to tell me the truth. You understand what I mean by truth, don't you?
Yes, Miss Nightingale.
Very well, then. Do you intend to marry Temperance Hatcher, my maid?
Peter, marry Temperance? Oh, good.
Look, Mrs. don't know what he's saying.
Oh, yes, he does, and you have every intention of hearing him say it, you minx. When did this attachment first manifest itself, and why wasn't I informed immediately?
Oh, well, Miss Nightingale, it was when you went down to Embley Park in the autumn. First he wanted to learn how to speak properly. I felt sorry for him, being a stranger here and sort of tongue-tied. So I said I'd teach him, and I did try. I was foolish, I know, because he wouldn't listen to any of the proper polite talk. He kept making advances. I did try and restrain him, miss, but when I made him understand that you didn't go about it like that over here, and he ought to be open and honourable about it, he wanted to marry me there and then and tell you everything, seeing as how you'd adopted him and was mother and father to him. What, so to speak, miss?
That was very proper of him. Thank you, Peter. Tell me, Temperance, what prevented you from following such excellent advice?
Oh, I didn't dare, miss.
You coquette, of course you'd have dared, but you enjoyed keeping the poor boy on tenterhooks. Peter, you shall marry her at once. I will arrange everything.
But I haven't even thought it over, miss.
Very well, think it over while Peter and I make the necessary arrangements. Now, where shall the ceremony be performed? Here or at Embley?
At Embley, miss. It's not a pretty church.
Very well. I'm glad about this, very glad. You'll make him a good wife, and he seems to be much in need of one.
Peter, did you understand that? Miss Nightingale says we can be married soon.
Oh, Miss, I kiss your hand.
No, Peter, save your kisses for the bride.
Oh, God bless you, ma'am. Come on, Peter. Oh, sorry, ma'am. Oh, one moment, you two.
Let them go, Aunt May. They're made for one another. She'll make an Englishman of him in less than 12 months.
Then you knew about it.
I just arranged it, dear. They're going to be married at Embley.
Married? When?
How should I know? Can't they make their own plans?
They'd be the first that ever did in this household.
I can't bear untidy lives. That's why I'm approving of Parthenope's marriage when she calls here this afternoon.
Parthenope to be married as well. Dear heaven, whatever next? When? To whom and why wasn't I told?
Aunt May, don't be tiresome. Parthenope hasn't told me yet.
Then how in the world did you ferret it out?
I didn't ferret it out. Her fiancé told me himself before he proposed to her. It's a Harry Verney.
Harry? Did he come here groveling for your permission?
Of course he didn't. Formal permission was Papa's province, not mine.
Then how do you know your sister accepted him?
Well, of course she accepted him. She's older than I, and Sir Harry Verney is a man of some eminence, and greatly attached to my cause.
Ah, I see, your cause. What other recommendations does he possess?
He's a widower and middle-aged, but I see no reason why the match should not be quietly successful. Parthenope's carriage is here now, Aunt May. Be so good as to show her up. Temperance is in no condition to receive.
Oh, why can't he leave normal lives? Why did I ever get entangled in this bedlam?
Lord Herbert sent this letter round by runner from Westminster. It's urgent.
Don't go, Arthur.
Bad news?
There's no answer. Get hold of Sutherland. Lord Herbert should be here himself soon. We meet in this room in 15 minutes.
Very well, sir.
Here's your sister.
Hello, darling. Parthenope, my dear.
You two will have lots to talk about. I'll get tea.
No, Aunt Mary, Very distressing. I'd set this afternoon aside for you, Party, but we've got an emergency cabinet meeting.
But, Flo, it seems like years.
Take tea with Aunt May, dear. Oh. I can only give you 10 minutes now. Oh, you look radiant, Party. Leave us, Aunt May, just for a few moments.
I'll get tea then.
I've a secret, Flo. I wanted a long talk. It's a big secret.
Tell me.
I'm to be married to Sir Harry Verney.
I'm very happy for you, dear.
But you aren't surprised. You ought to be. You're the very first after Papa to know.
I know Sir Harry, Party, and I've a pair of sharp eyes. He's a very worthy man, and you'll make him a very happy one.
Oh, dear. I suppose a thing like this seems trifling enough to you. You're so deeply immersed in much bigger things.
There isn't any bigger thing than two people before God dedicating their lives to one another, Party.
You don't mean that, Flo?
I do mean it. What can be bigger or more natural or more hopeful than the final choice of a lifelong companion? Someone with whom to share the disappointments and battles that lie in store for all of us. What do those obstacles matter if they face two instead of one right to the very end? And you two weren't thrust at one another like so many women in our position. You found one another. That's as it should be, Party.
The things you wanted were always so very different, Flo.
Were they?
Yes, you've never changed. With you it was always work, purpose, power. But I didn't want any of those things. Just a nice husband. Well, Flo, you went out and found your work. But a woman like me can't ask a man to marry her.
Most of the women in our class do, in a nice way, of course.
I can tell you now, Flo. I never could before.
Well, Party?
I was very jealous of you in the old days.
Jealous of me, oh, Party. I was a wretched little thing in the old days.
No, you were very beautiful, Flo. And all the men clustered round you at Papa's parties on the continent.
I remember. Most of the clusterers were bearded philosophers who hummed and hawed over my oddities and went away mumbling weighty conclusions.
Not all, Flo. There were young men, handsome young men.
I'm perfectly satisfied with my road. I haven't any regrets.
Of course not. Of course you haven't, Flo, darling.
There it is. Tea for three. A nice, strong pot.
I said not in here, Aunt May. Oh. You know I've a cabinet meeting. Okay. Party, I beg you to excuse me. I'm at a crisis in my fortunes.
All right, all right. We'll have it in my room, then. You mustn't mind her, Party, dear. She's not well.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Oh, come in, Doctor, come in. Party and I are about to be shown out. This way, Party, dear.
Oh, very well, but I must say I think it's a shame.
Sidney's here. I met him in the hall. Arthur Clough's coming up, too. Oh, here they are.
Hello, Florence, my dear.
Sidney, your message arrived 10 minutes since. Are you absolutely sure?
Certain. Had it from Palmerston himself in the lobby. Work began again on Netley Hospital a week ago. Our alternative plans weren't even looked at.
But I had his word of honor. This is a monstrous thing.
I expect he had other things to think about.
How can you find excuses for him when he gave his solemn word?
He isn't altogether to blame. The army medical nabobs played every trick in the pack. And Pam's position in the House is getting weaker every day. His government won't last a month.
Then there might be a chance with a champion in the new cabinet.
Florence, face the facts. We've lost the battle of Netley Hospital. It's over. Too late even for a rearguard action. But there are other battles of equal importance we can still win. So long as we don't squander ammunition on a lost cause.
Aye, that's sound sense you're talking, Sidney.
You're right, Sidney. But they shall never do this to me again. Never. You understand what this means? New tactics, new weapons, any weapons.
You've never been too scrupulous in your use of weapons, Flo.
But I've always had to use them at long range. From now on, it's point blank. The War Office is going to be reformed from top to bottom, a clean sweep. No more ambushes, no more pleading. Palmerston's government is falling. Good, let it fall. You shall be new Secretary for War, Sidney. And with you in the cabinet, we can't lose.
That's the spirit, Florence.
One moment. There's something else I learned this afternoon. The Army Medical Chief, Dr. Andrew Smith, is retiring shortly on reaching the age limit.
Good. He was always sniping at us. Do you know who succeeds him in the position?
Yes. Yes, I do, John.
Well, who is it?
You made his acquaintance in the Crimea. Sir John Hall, KCB.
John Hall, the new chief of the Army Medical Department. That stupid, blundering, hidebound ox.
Aye, that's bad. Bad.
He can do us untold harm.
He can, if he is ever appointed.
He's next in seniority. It's a moral certainty.
Never, never.
You might remind the public of your old interpretation of his title. I recall you writing home and saying his KCB stood for Knight of the Crimean Burial Grounds.
We might do some energetic canvassing for our own candidate.
We haven't got one yet.
There are several on the provisional list you made out. I have it here.
Gosh, we can't waste time finding a competitor until we've got Hall out of the way.
What do you propose? Sending Arthur Clough to the Opera House to assassinate him?
In any sensibly governed community, he would have been assassinated years ago. Fortunately, the means of eliminating him are not far to seek.
What's your plan, Florence?
I shall do what I threatened to do long ago. Arthur.
Yes?
Draft a letter for circulation to the press, using part of the text from my Crimean journal.
What part of the text, Florence?
Where it describes how Sir John Hall tried to starve my party and me into surrender by leaving us without food during our visit to the Crimean battlefields.
Crimean journal, check pages.
And there is something else. I shall want details of the occasion on which Sir John took part in the inquest on a soldier called Frederick White, who received 150 lashes. There was a big scandal about it. Sir John's verdict was that the man did not die from the effects of the flogging.
How do you propose to use that?
The press won't print it.
The newspapers don't get everywhere. Sydney shall circulate the facts in the lobbies at Westminster.
Florence, I can't do that.
You must. We are at war, Sydney.
You asked me to formulate a whispering campaign aimed at smirching a man's character. That isn't honest campaigning, it's blackmail.
What did Sir John do to us? The end justifies the means.
I cannot do it, I tell you. There must be other ways.
Oh, there are. The old ways. To hedge, obstruct, procrastinate. Months of sapping and mining and perhaps ignominious defeat in the end. I'm tired of siege warfare. It's time we took Whitehall by storm. Don't you see? Of course it would be infamous if we stood to make personal gain from it. But the cause is so much bigger than we are. It's God's will working through us.
Oh, heaven knows I'm with you heart and soul, Florence. You're above party strife and place-seeking politicians, but
There's no time for a campaign, Sidney. Hall is big enough and vicious enough to ruin us overnight. Who are we to question God's method?
You're right, Florence. You're always right. But don't talk glibly about God as though you and the British Empire worshipped the same deity.
we're all serving the same God, Sutherland.
Not Florence. Her conception of the Almighty is one of an omnipotent sanitary inspector. Eh, Florence?
He might be. He might well be. Sanitation first, then salvation. Come, gentlemen, to work. To work.
Thank you, Temperance. You might let Miss Florence know I'm here. Oh, I understand I have to congratulate you, my dear.
Oh, thank you, sir. The wedding went off lovely.
Good.
Miss Nightingale even had it put in the papers. Look.
Hmm? Protégé of Miss Florence Nightingale wed. Echo of the Crimean campaign. Well, 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 Temperance. Imagine you a married woman, married by the grace of God and Miss Nightingale.
Oh, sir.
Well, you'll be leaving us now, I suppose.
Oh, no, sir. No, I couldn't leave her now. She's so busy.
Oh, don't be stupid, woman. If you wait to catch her in a slack period, you'll be too old to have any children. Cut and run now while the going's good.
Good afternoon, Doctor. Go and tell Miss Nightingale Dr. Sutherland's here, Temple.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, have you made up your mind to tell her?
Aye, but I'm not liking the task.
Somebody must, and she'll take more notice of you than anyone.
Is Arthur any better today?
No, he's as ill as he can be. She's in there now, dictating to him.
You'd best stay with me. My general news is none too good. Sidney Herbert's in poor shape. He's on his way to see her. We'd best get Arthur out of the way first.
He's been looking worn out for months.
He'll have to rest.
Get that off immediately, Arthur. I'll finish the others later.
Yes, Florence.
And what can I do for you, John?
Sidney's coming to see you this afternoon.
Indeed. Is he in any new difficulty?
He's very ill, Florence.
Ill?
He collapsed at a cabinet meeting this morning. He's been keeping himself going with brandy.
What does this mean?
He's got to relax.
Relax? Now?
He's no choice, Florence.
Rubbish. This talk of relaxing. They said I'd no choice for years on end, and I heeded them no more than a field of chirping crickets. But did I die?
You have enormous stores of nervous energy, and you feed on fanaticism. Sidney isn't a fanatic, just an ordinary individual subject to intolerable strain.
Has he asked you to plead for him?
No, he has not. He'd never tell you the truth. He's far too game. If you let yourself realize how difficult it was for a gentle creature like Sidney...
Difficult? Great heavens, Dr. Sutherland. How dare you talk to me of difficulty? Of course it's difficult to coerce men like Ben Hawes, the permanent secretary, and the whole crowd of jacks in office down there in Whitehall. But Sidney is giving way too easily. Even Gladstone is bullying him over the estimates. Difficulties? What baby talk is this? Haven't we learned to expect difficulties? Well, I'll deal with Sidney when he arrives. Is that all you've come about?
No, it isn't, Florence. We want Arthur Clough to take a holiday.
Clough? A holiday? Has everyone lost their senses?
It's not my idea, it's his wife's. She came round here to see me this morning. She's very concerned about him.
What's the matter with him? I've noticed nothing. Beyond an even more pronounced inclination to lay down his pen the moment my back is turned.
Florence, Herbert can speak up for himself, but I'm going to speak for Arthur. He's got to rest before it's too late.
So this is a conspiracy?
No, it's the dictates of common sense and nothing else. Open your eyes. What's an obsession to you is only an occupation to others.
You call what we are doing an occupation. The reform of the entire War Office and the establishment of imperial medical and nursing services an occupation.
We shall only lose ground if we kill off our front-rank fighters. That's what's happening to Herbert and Clough in front of our eyes.
Listen to me, John Sutherland. I gave Arthur Clough the only useful job of his life. What was he when he came to me? A mooning poet, wrestling with his soul and making himself thoroughly miserable into the bargain.
What Arthur Clough does with his soul is nobody's business but his own. His wife is concerned with his bodily health.
Why didn't she come to me? I'm her cousin.
You aren't exactly renowned for hospitality to your family, Florence.
Very well. Kindly ask Arthur to step in here, Dr. Sutherland.
That won't help, Florence.
Do as I say.
Arthur, come in here a moment, old chap.
Here we are, assailed left and right by every greybeard in petticoats down at that pestilential War Office. The whole structure of our reforms in the balance. And this is the time he wants to go gadding about in holiday garb. Ah, there you are, Arthur. They tell me you want a holiday.
Well, Mrs. Clough has suggested I need a change, Florence.
She's done more than that. She's been round here intriguing behind my back.
I won't have you say that, Florence. She spoke to me in confidence, and it was no part of my plan to make a scene about it.
You whispered it to one another. You both confined in Sutherland here. What else can you call such backstairs methods?
Oh, this is intolerable.
Please, I beg of you not to quarrel on my account.
Hold your tongue, Arthur. Florence, I insist that you apologize to me and give Arthur at least 2 months' leave of absence.
Later. I could go later.
Later might be too late. My advice as a medical man is to go now, at once.
But Florence may not wish me
Oh,
to...
don't make me responsible. Go, by all means, if you feel your health is in danger. I'm no longer in charge here, it seems.
But Florence... Oh, very well, then. I'll go and pack my things.
I'm ashamed of you, Florence. That was cruel, callous, and most uncalled.
Yes, Herbert. Do we have to have an encore?
I should appreciate it if you left me to see Sidney alone.
It'll give you more room to ply the lash.
You think I can afford to expend a champion like Sidney? We should be lost at Westminster without him.
We've got to face facts. He's nearer collapse than Arthur Clough.
Then we must compromise. John, I beg of you, leave him to me. Sidney will die of shame if we stand round here discussing his health in front of him.
That's true enough. Though why a man should be ashamed of collapsing through overwork, I don't know. I'll leave you to him, Flo. But remember, the warning light's showing.
Lord Herbert, miss.
Come and sit down, Sidney. Here.
Thank you, Florence.
They told me you weren't well.
Sorry, Flo. I'm letting you down badly, I'm afraid.
You've never let me down yet, Sidney.
I'm having to fight. All day, every day. Ben Hawes and his minions are at me like a pack of whippets. Even Gladstone.
Hawes, Gladstone, how can they win in the end? What faith have they got that will carry them over and through every obstacle in the path as we've been able to advance from the beginning?
I'm not being beaten by Gladstone and Hawes, Flo. I'm being beaten by an incurable disease.
Haven't I proved there's no such thing?
There isn't for you, Flo. But I'm made of softer clay.
It's that very passivity of spirit among you and the others that is losing the battle, Sidney. You mustn't accept conditions, but make them. How many times did they beseech me to rest? How many times did I obey them?
You have a single purpose, and by diverting every drop of heart's blood into the stream, you keep it moving. I can't do that, Florence. I've other demands upon such pitiful reserves as I possess.
Then you admit it. Throw every ounce of your strength into the fight, and you could ride out the storm. But no, you don't do that. You fritter away your energy on other seductions.
Seduction? Bless you, Flo. Would you call the simple demands of wife and home a seduction? Is the effort required to travel to and from the War Office a frivolous expenditure of energy?
If these things impede us, they are. If our campaigns are to be pushed into the background.
How can you say that, Flo, after all these weary years?
You talk as though you regret them.
You make me regret them when you humiliate me like that.
Humiliate you? Sidney, no, never. I see your difficulty.
You don't. You can't see anything but the whirlwind you ride upon. Oh, you'll get there all right. You people always do. But some of us can't stand the pace, and when we fall out, we're weak enough to expect a kind word, not a sneer.
Sidney, please, this is preposterous. You talk as though you were dying.
I am, Florence.
But you can't. Not now. Oh, God, not when we've nearly won.
I said you'd get there just the same. And you will. Without me.
I shan't, Sidney. I'm a woman. No matter how hard I work, how cleverly I scheme, I can't take your place. There's no one else. No one.
You'll soon find someone, but in the meantime, we'll go on much as we have. I said I was going to die. I didn't say retire.
You mean you'll carry on? Just for the final lap?
I can't continue as Secretary for War. It isn't fair to the country. It's not even fair to you. I shall have to exchange the Commons for the Lords.
But how?
In the House of Lords, I could keep my eye on the essentials, and I should be aware of everything said and done regarding us. Well?
It's better than nothing. A good deal better, I suppose. And God can't be so blind as to let us be beaten now.
I pray not.
Oh, I beg your pardon. I thought...
Come in, Clough, old fellow.
Arthur's come to say goodbye, Sidney. He's going on a holiday.
It's only to the Isle of Wight, Florence. I won't be long. I swear it.
Don't apologize, Arthur. Get really well before she hammers on the fetters again.
I hope your own health improves, my lord.
It must, Arthur. It must.
Well, goodbye, then. For the present.
That's what you all think of it, don't you? Our work and its demands. Fetters.
Why, bless you, of course we do, Florence. But many a slave loves his chains. That fellow they found in the Bastille. He wept to go back, remember? We're just the same. There's no freedom for us now. We shouldn't know what to do with it anyway.
Oh, run along home for a day or two.
You know, Florence, When I think of you and all of us working here, driven by you, a verse of Blake's runs through my head. It's his Jerusalem. Bring me my bow of burning gold. Bring me my arrows of desire. Bring me my spear, O clouds unfold. Bring me my chariot of fire.
Yes. Blake had faith.
He might have been writing of you. John Sutherland's your spear, still sound. Clough is your bow, and the string's getting slack. I'm your sword, going to sleep in your hand.
No, Sidney.
But you'll always drive your own chariot of fire right up to the throne of grace, and my word blow. What a flourish of trumpets they'll blow for you.
Let the work drive out bodily weakness, Sidney. Fight one more fight. The best and the last.
Aye, Lady-in-Chief. The last, Florence. The best and the last.
This will be the book you are wanting, I believe.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Don't go, John.
What is it then, Florence?
I did you a great wrong. I'm sorry, John. I'm deeply sorry.
I don't know to what you refer, woman.
Oh, yes, you do. They asked you to join the Sanitary Commission to the Mediterranean. And I quite made up my mind you had accepted.
Nonsense. I hadn't the faintest intention of going.
But you wanted to and didn't because you wouldn't leave me. It was very generous of you, John.
Look, will you stop worrying your poor headpiece over things that don't happen and leave me to make my own decisions?
Is it any wonder I misjudge people? Sidney out of action. Clough convalescing the Lord knows where. On May on the point of leaving. Don't you see, John? We're practically alone. And down there in Whitehall and Westminster, they're chipping away at our structures and we can't do a thing to stop them. How long will Sidney be in Belgium?
Depends on his progress. 4, 5 months, perhaps.
5 months, they can work havoc in that time.
Let Whitehall hang fire. The spade work's done. There's other spheres where there's no opposition. The Indian Medical Commission, Infirmary Reform, the St. Thomas's Nurses' School. Oh, 101 of them. Mark time on these. They're just as important. Come, I'll lend a hand. What's this card?
A dossier. Nobody touches those but myself. Put it down.
Just a moment. Trainee report. April. Conduct satisfactory. Application to study 93%. May. Conduct satisfactory. Application to study 87%. June. Conduct satisfactory. 4 evenings out. Late reporting back on one occasion. Bless my soul, it reads like a secret police report.
That's exactly what it is.
Do you keep a day-to-day record of this young woman's movements?
Not that young woman particularly. I keep a record of all of them.
Great heavens.
I should be a fool to accept their examination results at face value, wouldn't I?
I can't understand you watching their private lives. Observed with male escort. It's fantastic.
How else can we tell a bad nurse from a good one? How are we to make selections when important positions are to be filled?
This card is starred in red ink. Does that mean this nurse is earmarked for the gallows?
That card is the record of Margaret Douglas, the girl who came here and begged me to enlist her. The red star means I am removing her from my list of trainees. She's downstairs now.
I give you up, Florence. Richelieu and Talleyrand were mere amateurs. Well, have the little wretch up and put her out of her misery. I'll not stay for it. I wouldn't know whether to laugh or cry.
You rang, miss?
There's a young woman in the hall, Temperance. Show her up, please.
Yes, miss.
Hadn't you better have Temperance search her for firearms?
Go back to your work and leave me to do mine.
Miss Margaret Douglas, Miss Nightingale.
That will be all, Temperance. You may sit down, Douglas. When do you anticipate getting married?
I...
Oh, come, don't fumble for words. Speak the truth.
I hadn't decided to get married at all, Miss Nightingale.
You hadn't? Then what do you propose to do with that wretched young man who spends most of his waking hours supporting the brickworks opposite your quarters? You find that corner abominably draughty in the autumn.
I can't help it if he won't abandon his suit.
Of course you can help it. A man wouldn't show that much importunity unless he was quite confident of eventual triumph.
Oh, Miss Nightingale, I told you when I was here before that I hadn't any attachment.
You most certainly did. It didn't take long to uncover that falsehood, did it?
It wasn't a falsehood. Edwin, this young man, had informed me he was sailing for India the day I called on you.
Do you think I can afford to waste my time engaging and disengaging nurses on their amateur rebound?
But he didn't go. It wasn't my fault. I didn't even know he was still here.
You knew on the 23rd of May last. On that day he called at the training school for you. That was 3 months ago, unless my calendar lies.
But my work...
Since that day, your standard of work has steadily declined. Look at this. 93% good, 87% fair, 72% poor, 67% a downright waste of time. Miss Douglas, my advice to you is to marry this misser of Indian steam packets. Marry him at once and sail to Lahore or Delhi or Timbuktu with him, but stop wasting my time.
Oh, this isn't fair. My work at St. Thomas's placed me among the first half dozen.
Quite until the moon came out.
And then somebody began spying.
Spy? Do you imagine I have to apologize for spying? I'm at war, woman. At war with dirt, disease, and incompetence. And believe me, Miss Douglas, I'll employ any means calculated to secure me victory.
Florence, I must speak to you a moment alone.
Dr. Sutherland, this is unpardonable. I'm giving an interview.
I can't help it. It's vitally important. Young lady, I beg you to excuse us. Florence, your brother-in-law, Sir Harry Verney, has been here. He has news. Important news.
Very well. Wait in the lobby, Douglas. I'll send for you later.
Yes, Miss Nightingale.
Now, what is it?
Florence, it's Sidney Herbert. Poor fellow,
Sidney. No. Not dead.
I'm afraid so, Florence.
Sidney. Dead.
This morning, at his home, Wilton, I tried to tell you how bad it was, Florence. I knew he'd returned from Spa, but I kept hoping and hoping, and you had so much to do. Poor laddie. Verney tells me his last words were of you, Florence. They caught something about the work, yours and his, being unfinished. He wanted to die at Wilton. I told him at Spa there was no hope.
I killed him, didn't I?
Oh, no, Florence. No, no. He lived for you.
I killed him just the same. He wouldn't have gone on fighting another day if I hadn't driven him.
Rest wouldn't have saved him, Florence. His disease was incurable, and he knew it.
He was such a gallant, gentle creature. And they hunted him like a stag. But it was I who drove him back into the chase. Over and over again. When he came here and told me, John, it all seemed quite unimportant, as though he had a headache or... This is God's punishment. And it's more than I can bear.
Stop accusing yourself, Florence. What's done is done. The laddie's gone to his rest. You didn't really know how ill he was.
But you tried...
I told you, but you couldn't hear me. You put the work first, and you did right to put it first. What's one life to the thousands you've had a hand in saving?
John?
Yes?
I can't go on any longer.
What fool's talk is this? Sidney would never believe it of you.
I can't, I tell you. What has this struggle done to me? It's made me a tyrant who drives my dearest friends out of the house and the dearest of all to his death. Well, it can't go on. God doesn't believe in us anymore.
That's a blasphemy. It's God driving us, and if some of us fall out, that's God's will as well.
The shadow of death is on this room, John, and I've been touched by it. I shall retire to St. Thomas's Hospital and give up the struggle.
You do no such thing, woman. You purge yourself of this whining guilt and go up against Whitehall and Westminster with all guns firing. If we retreat now, we freeze the work of Herbert's committees. We'll use Sidney's death as a rallying cry. And by the living God, we'll do the same. Rouse up, woman. There's champions aplenty in the House and the opposition. There's Harry Verney, there's Galton, there's Clough.
Clough is going to die, John, just like Sidney. I can feel it.
Heaven, you've wrestled death and thrown him time and again. Now you talk as though you were about to make common cause with him.
Perhaps I am. What of it? Who is there to regret, and why should anyone mourn a murderess?
Florence.
That nurse, John. Nurse Douglas. We must get her back. I dismissed her. She'll kill herself because of me. That woman, Temple. The woman in the lobby. Bring her here at once. At once.
But I can't, miss. She's gone.
All right, Temple. That's right, Florence. Weep. You're just a child again. And it'll do you a power of good.
Have you read this nonsense, John?
What's the matter now?
According to this particular periodical, I've been dead almost a week.
That paper was published 10 days ago, and Sir Harry Verney has already written demanding an apology.
I don't give two straws about the rubbish they've written here. It's the correspondence the report has occasioned. The week before last, I was supposed to be dying, and a quack here offers to cure me of spinal paralysis in 10 days.
He ought to be in my shoes for an hour or two.
I don't find anything at all amusing in the fact that the entire country is swarming with charlatans of this type. I shall write a strong letter to the medical council.
You're getting old and feeble. 20 years ago, you'd have had the man burned at the stake. Are you ready for your interview?
Who is there to be seen?
A matron from India. She says she's got some interesting reports, but won't give her name.
Then she won't get an audience. Who else?
Deputation from the Committee of the League for the Establishment and Extension of Women's Rights.
Ring the bell. I won't keep them very long. Oh. Establishment and Extension of Women's Rights. It'll be deep.
Good God. What extraordinary clothes. I imagine that's what's called a bloomer suit. Huh?
Our appointment was for 2:00. It is now nearly 3, sir. Here is our card.
Miss Bellum and Miss Croot, representing the committee of...
Thank you, Dr. Sutherland. Be seated, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. You wrote for an interview on the 21st of last month.
We wrote 4 times in all, Miss Nightingale.
Your movement is quite unconnected with nursing?
Oh, quite unconnected, Miss Nightingale.
Then why were you so anxious to see me?
We consider we have a right to your moral support in our campaign.
Is that all?
No, Miss Nightingale, this is far from being all. We realize you're a busy woman, one of Britain's few busy women, if one excludes the millions of drudges condemned to devote their entire life to the slavish service of the opposite sex. But we felt also that you represented an ideal of womanhood as it might well be practiced in every civilized country, that you have been, and still are, a living example of what a woman can do if given the opportunity.
Any woman.
Any woman, Miss Nightingale.
Many of the committee felt that you were hostile to our cause, Miss Nightingale, but I couldn't believe it. I've read and heard too much about you, and I volunteered to come and see you and ascertain once and for all whether it is true that...
Well?
Whether it is true that you didn't agree to women having equal rights.
How do you propose to win those rights?
By ceaseless agitation, Miss Nightingale, the same way as you won yours.
That is less than a half-truth, young woman. Agitation, certainly I agitated, but first I did something practical. I served in the Crimea.
That is known all over the world, Miss Nightingale. There is no Crimea today. But we are fighting to establish the right of entry into other spheres beyond nursing. And to that end, we must advertise ourselves and gain popular support.
If you would grace our petition with your signature, Miss Nightingale.
Petition? Do you think you can conquer an ageless tradition with a scrap of paper?
Magna Carta was a scrap of paper, Miss Nightingale.
Signed at the sword point, backed by force. Will your document frighten anyone?
But you agree with us in principle.
I do not. You violate every principle I ever cherished. It was never part of my policy to wrest the helm from the hands of the men. If women had controlled the cabinet when I instituted my earliest reforms, I should have failed on every count. Failed miserably and ignominiously.
Miss Nightingale, I feel...
No. You cannot turn yourselves inside out. The men like to flatter themselves that they are superior in intellect, that they are the lords of creation, and if it pleases them, let them hold on to that belief. It keeps them quiet, and we can get what we want by the exercise of the arts nature gave us for the purpose.
Some of us, Miss Nightingale, are too proud to employ those subtleties.
And some of us would sooner fail than employ them.
Young woman, in those hideous garments, you would employ them in vain on all but the blind and the mentally deficient.
Oh, come, Clara, we are wasting our time.
They call you a great woman. Oh, what fools. How could a great woman say a spiteful thing like that?
Now, come, Clara, we don't agree. Let us leave it at
No,
that.
let her hear the truth. I'm not afraid of her. Do you think I enjoy wearing these masculine clothes? Do you think I don't like pretty things like any other woman?
My child, control yourself.
Don't you? Can't you see? This is a challenge.
Clara, please.
You don't really belong to us at all, not anymore. I shall never believe in anything again. Never.
She's young. The young feel things. They've so much to learn. Good afternoon, Miss Nightingale.
They've left their precious petition.
That was a pretty scene, to be sure. I couldn't help overhearing. You shouldn't excite yourself over these trifles. Why see these people at all if they upset you?
They don't all upset me, John. But I am tired now. I should like to sleep a while.
You do that, Florence. I'll draw the curtains.
Thank you, John. No more visitors. Go home.
Presently.
Tired. So tired.
Florence.
Sidney?
Yes, Florence.
Why have you come again today?
Because you needed me, Florence.
You're angry with me, Sidney. Disappointed, then. You must be, or you wouldn't have come.
I said I'd come when you called. I always have, Florence.
I didn't call, Sidney. I ought to have long since, but I didn't. It was wrong with me.
You did call, Florence, without even knowing it. Only you can bring me here. You know that.
Sidney, that young woman, I was cruel and spiteful.
There's no real harm done, Florence. Not as long as you know it.
But it must have hurt you, Sidney. I'm always hurting you.
No, Florence. You only hurt your image of me. That's all I am, you know. Nothing real.
You're very real to me, Sidney.
I'm glad. That makes me very proud.
Oh, Sidney, how can you be proud of me? A stupid, arrogant, obstinate old woman. You must despise me for all my bad judgments and mistakes. I feel so wretched.
You mustn't. That's why I came. You can't help making a few bad judgments in all you attempt. You'll go on making them. Bless you. How many did we make once upon a time? Don't mind the mistakes. It isn't those that make you wretched. It's
Tell me.
You must learn just to yield a little. An inch here, an inch there. Aim for your old standards, but don't hit so hard when others fall short of them. Keep adjusting your perspectives, Flo. Nobody can do that better than you if you'll only let yourself. Give. Give slowly, gracefully, and graft your policy onto the new world. It's such a different world from ours, Flo, and can't be forced into the iron hoop you sometimes try and use. Be firm, Flo, but pliant. Keep your splendid mind alert and open to new things. Not all of them are greedy and disruptive. Above all, be kind, Flo. Kind to the young and eager. Laugh at their enthusiasm and intolerance, but love them secretly for having these qualities. Remember always that it was these things you built upon. And please God, are still building.
And is that all?
That's all, Flo. Nothing else matters. Nothing at all.
Are you going now, Sidney?
Yes, Florence, I must.
Why don't you always stay by me? I could do so much more.
That cannot be, my dear. I belong to the past. You are the present and the future. But I'm never far away, you know.
It'll be all right, Sidney. I swear it.
I
know. Oh, come in.
Miss Nightingale?
Hmm? Oh, come in, my dear. Pull the curtains aside, would you? Oh, what lovely sunshine. They said there were no more visitors. I've been having a rest. Such a refreshing rest. Now, sit there, my dear, facing me. I like to see my visitors.
You don't even recognize me.
I do. You are the undisciplined nurse.
Right first time.
I remember everything. It was the day, poor Sidney, you went to India to be married. Oh, such a long time ago.
I thought you'd like to see this.
Statistics. Why, you've been nursing. You came to your senses. You didn't get married.
Oh, no, Miss Nightingale, I didn't come to my senses. I did get married, and I was very, very happy. But it didn't last very long. Edwin died of a tropical disease a year after we got there.
Poor child.
He died in a hospital. They weren't very good hospitals then. So I thought I'd stay and make them better. And that's what you would have done, wouldn't you?
Tell me everything.
I had a dreadful struggle to get on the staff. It was almost as though...
Yes?
Almost as though they'd never heard of you, Miss Nightingale.
Fools.
But it's different now. There's several of your girls in that hospital and dozens in Bombay, Calcutta, and Karachi.
I want to hear more. You must stay to tea, to supper. John!
Did you call me, Florence? I'm afraid I dropped off to sleep. Oh, bless my soul. How did she get in?
She happens to be a matron with an analytical survey of tropical diseases in her reticule. Shame on you, John Sutherland. Go to sleep again. No. First ring for tea. This visitor is taking tea with me. And then... No. First, you must excuse me, will you? Something important. Those women's rights people, I want their address.
21 Temple Street West.
Here you are. Ask Sir Harry to send it round to them. I've signed it. It can't do any harm.
Are you out of your mind? After all you said to me...
Take it, and don't argue with me, you old dunderhead. See that Sir Harry sends it off today.
All right, I'll see to it. You're a silly, vacillating old woman. There's only one thing keeps me here dancing attendance on you, milady. It's the pleasure of being too old to care what I say to you.
He's sweet, isn't he? I remember him so well. Dear, faithful John. Dying in harness.
He isn't so frightfully old.
They're all fearfully old. All but me, child. And I'll never be old. Never. Because every now and then, young things like you come back to me. Always just when I need you. And just when I think the torch is going out, it flares up again, right in my face, and makes me see how worthwhile it's been, and is been. How very, very worthwhile.
In The Spinster of South Street, by R.F. Delderfield, adapted for radio by Cynthia Pugh, the part of Florence Nightingale was played by Rachel Gurney, Lord Herbert by Austin Trevor, and Dr. Sutherland by Duncan McIntyre. The rest of the cast was as follows: Aunt May, Hester Peyton Brown; Arthur Clough, Michael Spice; Temperance, Elizabeth Morgan; Lord Palmerston, Norman Claridge; Parthenope Nightingale, Margaret Ward; Margaret Douglas, Polly Murch; Dr. Smith, James Thomason; Peter Grillage, John Gray; Miss Croot, Barbara Mitchell; Miss Bellum, Sheila Grant. The play, which was recorded, was produced by Betty Davies.
Claire in the Community is a British radio comedy series, starring Sally Phillips as Claire. It was adapted from the comic strip of the same name which appeared in the Guardian newspaper, written by Harry Venning. The title is a play on words relating to care in the community. Claire is a social worker who likes to sort out other people's problems while ignoring her own. She is white, middle class and heterosexual, but does not like to be reminded of it. She is a control freak, but both her personal and professional lives are out of control.
Claire in the Community by Harry Venning and David Ramsden. Episode 1, Babysitter. Morning.
Brian, what are you doing?
You smell nice.
Stop. No, we can't do that. Stop.
It's okay. I set the alarm a bit early. We've got time for a bit of...
Oh, Brian.
What?
Really sorry, we just take a quick look at the time?
What? Oh.
3:45?
Claire, I'm sorry, I must have set the clock...
3:45 a.m.? That's a 4:45 4, Brian. In the morning.
It was a mistake, all right. Just trying to be a bit, romantic.
Sleep deprivation is not romantic, Brian. It's a form of torture. Oh, I really wanted a decent night's kip. I'm so tired all the time these days.
I said I was sorry.
Oh, shut up.
I suppose a quick one's out of the question.
So, let me get this straight. Brown woke you up at 3:45 in the morning and you had sex for 3 hours. Wow, Claire, no wonder you look tired.
You haven't listened to a word I've said, have you? The point is that we didn't have sex.
Oh, and you feel guilty that you've hurt him?
No, I do not feel guilty. It was 4 in the morning. No, I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed with myself that I have inadvertently fueled his preposterous and cherished delusion that he is a kind of Lord Byron, trapped in a soulless, loveless, passionless marriage to me, Frostina the Snow Queen. I'm every bit as romantic as he is, the pillock. Oh, why do the lifts never work in these places?
It's like they dig this bloody big deep hole, hundreds of feet down, and they throw you to the bottom of it. Only it's not a hole in the ground, it's the other way round. We're in the sky, 13 floors up, where nobody can see you, and if no one can see you, it's like you don't exist. It would be hell on earth if we were anywhere near the earth. Sorry, you tend to witter on when you're on your own all day.
At least you've got baby Colin.
Baby who?
Kevin.
Oh, Kevin. No getting away from you, is there, Kevin? Here, Kevin, have your dummy.
Which is where we think the family centre can help you. So why don't we all sit down, make a thorough assessment of your needs? Yeah, do you think you could ask your... Oh, OK, let's stand up and make a thorough assessment of your needs.
Oh, I can easily tell you what my needs are.
Oh, well, that's good.
I need money.
Apart from money?
There isn't anything apart from money.
Right, well, we don't actually give out money.
What do you do?
Well...
I'll tell you what you do. You give out hot air. Like all the others. Talk, 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 talk.
And kind words butter no parsnips.
What?
And kind words butter no parsnips. It's something my grandma used to say.
She's right. She's right, your grandma. We can't live on kind words.
Yeah, I think what I need to explain to you, Kelly, and you, Megan, and your granny, is that although we cannot hand out money, we can offer a comprehensive package of services.
Isn't there some sort of hardship payment?
Yeah, I've heard of that. I'll have one of those. Get us a one-off hardship payment.
We don't give out one-off hardship payments. I think my student, Megan, has misinformed you here. She's thinking of social security.
Student, are you? Mm-hmm. Bet it's not easy living on a grant.
Oh, no, it's not.
Counting every penny, trying to make ends meet.
Scrimping and saving just to get by.
Of course, some people never have to worry about little things like money, so they don't know what it's like for the rest of us, but they still think they can wander into our homes and lecture us on our needs.
Kelly, you are angry, and you are trying to provoke an angry response from me, which isn't going to help the situation, so it's not going to happen.
Typical middle-class do-gooder.
I am not middle class. My grandfather was a Geordie coal miner, and that's where I come from, OK? Those are my ain folk. Look, OK, this isn't about me. But if it makes you feel more comfortable, let me assure you that I am far from wealthy. Granted, I'm on a wage, but it's hardly extravagant. I also have to scrimp and save, just like my poor student Megan, whose parents bought her a house last year.
It's a flat, actually. Well, it's a studio apartment. But there is a kind of mezzanine thing that separates the bedroom.
So if we can get
space.
back to the point.
Yeah, fine by me. I want a one-off hardship payment.
Kelly, look, a one-off payment, by its very nature, offers a limited and temporary solution.
Let me worry about that.
What we try and do at the family centre is help you address your long-term...
Are you going to give me the money or not?
Well, no, that's, not what we do.
I bet your friend here would.
Whew, let's touch and go back there for a bit.
What in the name of sweet... Are you mad? Have you gone mad? What were you... I can't believe parsnips. Oh, if you ever so much as open that flabbing great yab...
Oh, you bloody vandal. Shut up and clear off. I'm calling the police.
Sorry, just going.
We're social workers. Claire, please wait. Sorry.
No, Megan. I'm the one who should say sorry. I lost my temper, and that's it's inexcusable behaviour for a practice teacher. No matter how stupid her student may have been. Will you stop sniffling, Megan?
I'm not crying.
Your nose is bubbling.
I'm not crying.
You are crying.
I'm not.
You are crying a bit. You just have to stop that. You're on the front line now, sister, where tears are cheap. It's almost a currency around here.
I let you down.
Yes, you did. You made a mistake, and you have to live with that. Learn from it, Megan. Professionalism doesn't limit your compassion. It channels it into a force for good, like in Star Wars.
I've never seen Star Wars.
Oh, you must. It's absolutely brilliant.
Irene, have you seen Mr. Olibarjo's file?
Over there.
Please?
You know, Ray, I'm usually suspicious of new technology, but I do approve of the council sending us their policy documents on CD-ROM.
Whoa, good shot.
So much more aerodynamic than paper. Please?
I'm out all afternoon, so if Roger rings, can you take a message and tell him that I'll ring him tomorrow?
You know you've got supervision tomorrow.
Oh, thanks for reminding me. Oh, I'll try and ring at home.
Stop ignoring me!
We're not ignoring you.
Yes, you are.
All right, we are ignoring you, because you're driving us up the wall.
I'll tell you what really drives a person up the wall, Ray. It's not having a date for 8 years, and then when one comes along, you have to pass it up because you can't get a babysitter.
And I sympathise, Helen, but I'm busy tonight. I can't babysit. And you saying please over and over again isn't going to change that.
Please?
Crying out loud. That's it, I'm going.
He could if he wanted to.
I'm sure he does want to, Helen. But for some reason, he feels it more important to visit his mother in the hospice.
Every night.
Helen!
Oh, all right. But you haven't got an excuse.
I don't need an excuse, Helen. I have made a choice, and you should respect it.
It's Gareth, isn't it? He's not a bad kid, really. Oh, I wish people would just give him a chance rather than believing all the stories they're told.
By you, Helen. You're the one who tells the stories. Every day you complain about him, how uncontrollable your son is. Besides, I did give him a chance, remember?
But you left him alone.
For 1 minute. When I came back, the sofa was ablaze.
But Gareth doesn't do that fire stuff anymore. He's 16 now. He's grown out of it.
Look, Helen, I'm really excited about your date. And I'm more than happy to help you to find a babysitter. It just won't be me.
But I've asked everybody.
Glenys?
Kickboxing.
Richard?
Creative writing.
Claire?
Claire? Do you mean Claire? I'll do anything to help a friend, providing it doesn't inconvenience me in the slightest. Barker?
She's not that selfish.
Who's selfish?
Children. Helen and I were just discussing how difficult it is bringing up our children.
Well, that's because you've made it difficult for yourself.
What? How can you say something like that? Unless I've not been paying attention, Claire, you don't have any children.
You don't have to own a motor car to know how to drive, Helen.
Claire, perhaps now is not the time.
No, I'm fascinated. Pray continue. You are clearly a world authority. I am just a mother.
Careful, Claire. Remember what happened when you tried to explain racism to the black workers group?
That was completely different. All I'm saying is that most kids' problems come from a lack of self-esteem. Society deems them worthless, so any confidence they do have is continually undermined by adults who are unable to grasp the simple fact that if kids respected themselves, they'd discipline themselves.
I see. So all the trouble that Gareth's been in, that's my fault?
Well, I mean, of course, it's never helpful in these situations to apportion blame, but yeah, it is.
You cheeky cow. No. This is interesting, Helen.
No, it isn't.
I mean, come on, Claire. For all your talk of respect and equality for young people, you wouldn't want to spend any of your own time with one of them, would you?
Yeah, I would. I'd love it.
What? You'd spend an evening with a stroppy teenager?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly the point. If we weren't so quick to dismiss young people, we'd find they were full of life and ideas and emotions, feelings that they're eager to share, if only we'd let them.
I'll believe it when I see it.
I would leap at the chance.
At the first opportunity?
Definitely.
This evening?
Absolutely.
6:30.
6:30 what?
There you go, Helen. Found you a babysitter. Drop Gareth round at Claire's 6:30.
Whoa, now hold on a second.
No, you hold on a second. Irene, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but this isn't right. Claire shouldn't have been tricked into looking after Gareth. He's not the curse of the monkey's claw, he's my son. I am painfully aware that the last time I had sex was under John Major. But I'm not so desperate that I'm prepared to farm out my little boy to someone who doesn't want him just so I can go on a date.
Well, excuse me, Helen, but I don't remember being tricked. I am more than happy to entertain Gareth for the evening. I was merely going, whoa, to suggest 7 o'clock rather than 6:30, giving me more time to get to the supermarket after work and buy extra special ingredients for a suitably scrumptious meal.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Claire. You'll be no trouble. I really appreciate this. Just don't let him near matches. You haven't got any pets? No, good. Oh, I am so excited.
You are so dead, Irene.
You got a loyalty card?
No, I haven't.
Well, Kevin, look who it is. And that lovely full trolley she's got. Yum, sun-dried tomatoes. I bet she really had to scrimp and save for those. And look at those funny vegetables. They're called asparagus. Geordie coal miners used to eat them in their sandwiches. Fresh pasta, very nice. Fancy wine.
Actually, it's elderflower pressé.
Costs the same as fancy wine. Gruyere cheese. None of your Dairy Lee here, Kevin.
Do you need any help packing your bags?
No, thanks, I'll be all right.
Oh, Haagen-Dazs.
Yeah, actually, yes, please. Yes, go as quick as you can.
Flaming Joseph.
Good evening, Brian.
Flaming Joseph and his amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. I ask you, they promised me last year after Oliver I could do Lorca's Blood Wedding until Trudy Doyle flounces in her jazz shoes and says, why don't we ask the children what play they'd like to do? Shirley, that's the head of department we're talking about here, says, oh, what a good idea. Yeah, well, they can do it without me, and they're not using my makeup. Crikey, Claire, that's disgusting. What kind of wine is that? It tastes like bathwater.
That's elderflower pressé.
Oh, sorry, but I need a proper drink.
No, sorry, Brian. No booze tonight.
Oh, don't you start. I had a tough day, and the last thing I want is you quoting my weekly alcohol units back at me. It's my liver.
And it's my dinner party.
Oi! Give that back.
Just for once, Brian, it's not about you or your liver. This is going straight down the sink. We've got a guest for dinner tonight who doesn't drink alcohol, and in deference to them, we won't be drinking it either. Although you may help yourself to the elderflower pressé.
Doesn't drink alcohol? Well, this is not your mother.
It's Gareth.
Gareth?
Gareth Golightly, Helen's Gareth.
The delinquent?
Actually, Brian, you can't be expected to know this because you're only a teacher, but sticking labels on children is no longer considered such a great idea.
I'm off.
Off? No, what do you mean, off?
Off, Claire. Up the pub. I spent all day at school and I had my fill of kids labelled and unlabelled. Need a drink.
Look, Brian, Helen's got a date tonight, and I said we'd look after Gareth. You know, OK, he can present challenging behaviour, but he's confused. He's had a lot of bad breaks. I just thought that before the world writes him off, he should know that there are two people who are prepared to give it their time, effort and interest simply because he's worth it. You can't just walk out.
Just watch me.
Hello, Brian. You leaving?
No, just got in.
Oh, Helen, you look lovely.
Claire, thanks ever so much.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Thank you, Gareth, for accepting our invitation to dinner. Would you like a quick drink, Helen? Or...
No, I can't. I'm late already.
Gareth, this is Brian. Brian, Gareth.
Bye, Claire. Bye, Brian. Bye, Gareth. And, Gareth, you won't...
Mum, please, just go.
One more huggy.
Go!
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye, then. Bye. You take care now. Don't trip up. Right, then, Gareth. Let's take your coat.
No, thank you.
Oh, come on. You can't just sit there in your coat.
Yes, you can, Brian. Drink, Gareth. There's orange juice, apple juice, sparkling mineral water, Coke, elderflower pressé. That's very nice. It's very chic. It's a subtle taste. It's a little fruity, but more herby. Very, very fresh. Almost, it's like delicate.
Coke, please.
Yeah, I'll have a Coke.
Well, there isn't that much Coke, Brian, so maybe you should just stick with the elderflower pressé. I'll fetch the nibbles, and I'll let you and Brian get to know each other.
So who's your mother got a date with?
I don't know.
Didn't she look lovely, your mum? I wouldn't have chosen floral for her myself, but I think she got away with it.
Do you like football, Gareth?
Honestly, why do you assume that Gareth should like football just because he's a young man?
Well, I didn't assume anything. I just asked him.
You see, I've got a theory about this, Gareth.
One more time.
Yeah, no, I think that men talk about football all the time so that they can avoid talking about their feelings. It's just, you know, it's so much easier for men to waffle on about the Manchester United youth policy for, like, hours on end than it is to say, you know, you are my friend. And I care about you.
Yeah, this is nothing to do with men's inability to express their feelings. It's about whether Gareth, along with millions of other people in this country, enjoys his football. Well, do you?
No, not really.
No, neither do I.
There, Brian, you see? More Coke, Gareth?
No, thanks.
I'll just get you some.
Do you read much?
What, like books?
Yeah?
No.
Oh.
I like graphic novels, though.
Now, that's interesting, because it's only like a couple of years ago that they were dismissed as trash, but now, well, they're quite well respected as a literary form.
Brian,
really.
Can you just turn the teacher off for one evening? Let's just relax. For goodness sake.
So what do you usually do of an evening?
Stuff.
Have you got a girlfriend?
Oh, for pity's sake.
What?
I can't believe you just asked that.
What have I done now?
Two things. First of all, you asked a particularly personal question to someone you've only just been introduced to, assuming an intimacy you haven't earned. And secondly, how do you know he's not gay? The assumption of heterosexuality can be deeply offensive. Listen, Gareth, you be whatever you want to be. And you have fun finding out. I had a same-sex relationship when I first went to college. It's perfectly natural. Mind you, it still freaks Brian out, doesn't it?
I do quite like football.
What team do you support?
Who have you got?
And it turned out that none of them, right, had even read the 1992 Children Act. Does anybody want any more carob cake?
No, thank you.
I'll put the coffee on.
Not for me, thanks. Got to make a move.
Sorry, move?
I've just remembered I promised Simon I would take this copy of Empty Space round to him.
I'm sure Simon can wait until our guest has gone.
I don't think he can. He really, really, really needs it now.
Well, I really, really, really think Simon's pushing his luck a bit.
I'm sure Gareth won't mind me rushing off. I mean, his mum's going to be here in a minute. And here she is.
sorry to disturb you like this, Claire, but I had to see you because I've been wandering around for hours thinking about this morning and I realised I'm just not up to it. I'm dropping out. I'm going to quit the social work course.
Megan, this is Gareth. He's our dinner guest.
Oh, hi. Sorry, I didn't see you there.
Thanks.
But the thing is, Claire, I'm worried that I'd be too emotionally involved to do the job properly, and I don't think I could ever be as insensitive as you.
Hello, I'm Brian.
Oh, pleased to meet you. I'm Megan, Claire's student.
Oh, you've chosen a difficult profession, Megan.
Oh, you must think I'm making a terrible fuss.
Megan, enough. This isn't an appropriate time.
I just wanted to talk.
Yeah, well, why don't you just talk to Brian?
Yes, but since I was just about to go and take this book back, perhaps Megan would like to take it back with me?
Sorry?
He's going to the pub.
The pub? Great. As long as it's okay with you.
Megan, just go with Brian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we can talk about the other thing in the morning.
What other thing? Oh, right, yes. Okay. Cheerio.
Bye, Gareth. It's been fun. Must do it again.
Why don't you go with him?
Sorry?
Go with him. You obviously don't want to be with me. Go on, go. Mum will be here in a minute. You don't worry, I'm not going to do anything.
I don't want to go anywhere. I'm having a brilliant time.
Oh, give it a rest. I'm here because you're doing Mum a favour. You don't give a toss about me, no one does.
Oh, is that so? Like your mother doesn't give a toss?
She was pretty keen to be shot at me tonight.
She's got a date, for heaven's sake. Even mums are allowed a social life, but if I know Helen, she's been thinking about you all evening. Yeah, that's probably her now. Oh, hi, Helen. Yeah, so how did the date go? Really? 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 Crikey. Did you? And your date, what? He sung like a horse. What do you mean he sung like a Sorry, Helen, they're a bit slow there. Blimey. What about... I see. Oh, right, yeah. No, it won't be a problem. No, if it was, I'd say. No, it's fine. OK, I'll tell him. No, Helen, I've no idea where you can get batteries at this time of night. Bye. Hey, Gareth, guess what? You're staying over.
Oh, that's bloody typical, that is. She's dumped me.
Oh, come on, Gareth, it'll be fun. I used to love staying over at my friend's house.
You're not my friend. I don't have any friends.
Well, I'm sure that can't be true.
Oh, you know, do you?
Yeah, all I meant was that...
Don't worry about it, it's not your problem. I'm just sorry you're stuck with me all night so Mum can have a shag. Well, she can shag herself stupid for all I care. Might even make her a bit less irritable for a couple of weeks.
God, let's hope so.
Did she say what time she's coming to pick me up?
She's going to phone in the morning.
I want to go home.
Oh, you can't. I'm sorry. You know, Gareth, it's OK if you want to cry.
I don't want to cry.
I'm just saying that if you did...
I don't.
It doesn't make you any less of a man.
I don't want to cry.
Brian cries.
If I were Brian, I'd cry too.
Acknowledging that one's parents are sexual beings raises many difficult issues.
Why do you always talk like that?
Like what?
Like a robot.
I don't.
Yes, you do.
I don't.
Yes, you do.
No, well, that's your perception, Gareth, and I must respect
robot.
it. Look, just because I exercise caution and consideration in my use of language...
Robot.
Look, Gareth...
Robot. Robot.
Oh, you can be an unpleasant little toe rag when you want to be, can't you, Gareth? I'm sorry, that was unforgivable, Gareth. I think I owe you an apology. No, you're right. I haven't been behaving like a friend. I've been acting like a social worker, and a not very good one at that. There's me gabbing away instead of doing what everybody says that I do best, which is just listening.
Everything's gone wrong since Dad died.
Like I went on holiday to Greece once with these two girlfriends, and they'd both of them split up with their boyfriends. So every night it was like, since your dad died, you say.
But from what you're telling me, Brian wants it both ways. He's happy to let you take on all the responsibility in the relationship, but then resents his loss of control.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, but if you can see it, why can't he? You're a very astute young man.
Astute?
Yeah, you notice things. You're very sensitive.
Great. Girls don't want sensitive.
Oh, Gareth. Hello? Sensitive? That's exactly what girls do want.
Is that what attracted you to Brian?
Well, it wasn't looks, was it? Point is, sensitivity's the most attractive quality a man can have, and you've got it in spades. But, you know, that doesn't mean we want our men to be wimps. No, we like men who know what they want and have the courage to go and get it.
I'll get rejected.
Well, how do you know unless you try? You have to have a little faith in yourself, Gareth. Sensitivity and confidence are the nitro and the glycerin of dating. Kaboom! My female intuition tells me that some lucky girl very soon will be blown away by you.
I should go for it.
You should go for it. Do you want another beer? Well, this has been a very pleasant evening. Oh, I can't wait to tell that cow Irene it will really stick in her craw.
Sorry?
Nothing. Do you want to watch some telly before we go to bed? Ah, so you've decided to come home, have you? I am honoured. Oh, look, for once, can you come to bed without clumping around? Dozing off here. Honestly, I should kill you for what you did tonight. Yeah, no. Don't think you can get around me like that. Oh. Yeah, then again, maybe you can. But, OK, we can't make too much noise because...
Sorry I'm a bit late. I walked Megan home. What time did Laughing Boy leave?
Brian?
You have been listening to Claire in the Community by Harry Venning and David Ramsden, starring Sally Phillips, Nina Conti, Gemma Craven, Alex Lowe, Richard Lumsden and Ellen Thomas, with Paul Checker and Emily Wachter. The executive producer was Paul Schlesinger, and the producer was Katie Tyrrell.
Dr. Finlay's Casebook, from 1970 until 1978, episodes from Dr. Finlay's Casebook were broadcast on radio with some of the same actors from the television program. These episodes were adapted for radio from the original television scripts by the original writers, where possible.
Dr. Finlay's Casebook. Adapted for radio from the television series based on the characters created by A.J. Cronin. With Andrew Cruikshank as Dr. Cameron, Barbara Mullen as Janet, and Bill Simpson as Dr. Finlay. This week, The Greatest Burden, written and adapted for radio by Harry Green.
Dr. Finley?
Aye.
Is Dr. Cameron on the way with Mr. Geddes?
All right, just give me a chance, will you? All right, this is well someone can sing.
What is wrong, Dr. Finley?
There'll be no distinguished surgeon to dinner tonight, Janet.
Oh, has he been called back to Glasgow? Mr. Geddes was never one to miss a dinner in this house.
Murray died on the operating table.
Oh, no. Poor Mrs. Murray. Oh, dear. But I had my doubts he'd get over the second operation.
It's nasty, you know. Dying on the table. Nasty for the surgeon. Nasty for Dr. Cameron. I was only assisting, but how do you think I feel?
It's still nastier for the widow.
Naturally, I'm sorry for her, but I'm sorrier for Mr. Geddes at the moment. Even sorrier for Dr. Cameron.
For Dr. Cameron? Why Dr. Cameron?
The second operation was the result of the first operation. And what happened then? Dr. Cameron really carries the responsibility.
But he was only doing his duty.
And when did doing his duty save a doctor from the wrath of an aggrieved patient or his widow? And the wrath of God is nothing to the wrath of a widow on the warpath.
Good evening, Mrs. Murray.
Oh, it's you, Tom Smith.
I've just brought away something for the good man.
Oh.
From the lads at the local shed.
Come away in, Tom.
How is he?
Murray's dead.
Huh? But she was having another operation.
He died on the table.
What went wrong?
Dr. Cameron says it's what took him in there in the first place. The perforated ulcer.
Aye.
He says it wasn't the forceps.
The forceps?
There was a forceps slipped in Murray after the first operation.
Cameron didn't tell you?
He told me tonight.
After the second op?
Aye. And Murray dead.
And it wasn't the forceps that killed him?
It was a perforated ulcer, they say.
They say. Cameron says. Well, Cameron won't say the last word.
Uh-huh.
If you'll excuse me, I'll get on to divisional headquarters right away. That was negligence. Plain negligence.
What's that?
Does the man think we're daft because we're no doctors?
Good morning, Dr. Finley.
Good morning, Janet.
Your tipper, Doctor, and the post.
Thank you, Janet. Dr. Cameron not down yet.
He is down, but he does not want breakfast this morning.
He's letting this thing get on top of him, you know. I see Ben has been briefed to defend us.
Oh, is that good, Doctor?
Well, it's good enough. The union has briefed Collins for Mrs. Murray. He's a bit of a fire-eater, I hear. But Ben's a real lawyer, and it's law that matters in this kind of case, not advocacy. Now, Ben will see us through all right.
Oh, I'm glad. Now, Dr. Finley, will you please deal with that tipper? You'll need to build up all your strength to face the sheriff's court, you know.
Repeat after me. I swear by Almighty God.
I swear by Almighty God.
And as I shall answer to God.
And as I shall answer to God.
On the great day of judgment.
On the great day of judgment.
I will tell the truth, the whole truth.
That I'll tell the truth, the whole truth.
It's nothing but the truth.
And nothing but the truth.
Very well, Mr. Collins.
My lord. Mrs. Murray, your full name is Ellen Hannah Murray.
Yes, sir.
Widow of Andrew Murray.
Yes.
When did your husband die, Mrs. Murray?
November the 10th.
Before his last illness, did he enjoy good health?
He never missed a day's work.
Now, will you cast your mind back to the beginning of his illness?
It was October the 25th, and he had a very bad pain. I got him up to bed, but he had another bad pain, and he collapsed.
You called a doctor?
I sent for Dr. Cameron.
And what did Dr. Cameron tell you?
He said it was a burst stomach ulcer, and he would have to go into hospital right away, and there'd have to be an operation.
You consented to the operation?
Yes, sir. Dr. Cameron said he would die if they didn't operate as soon as possible.
When was the operation performed?
The same day, that evening.
Do you know who performed it, Mrs. Murray?
It was Mr. Gareth from Glasgow with Dr. Finley and Dr. Cameron.
And was the operation successful?
They said that he collapsed in the operating theatre before they'd finished.
But Mr. Murray survived this collapse.
Yes, sir, but then they said he must have another to finish the first.
Who said, Mrs. Murray?
Well, Dr. Cameron said.
Did you know that your husband had been X-rayed?
Yes, sir.
Were you told why Mr. Murray was X-rayed?
Well, I never thought of asking him, and I thought it was just one of the things they did in hospital.
Quite so. Were you told what the X-ray revealed?
No.
Was the second operation successful?
Well, they said everything was going well.
But Mr. Murray died.
Yes.
Did you have a conversation with Dr. Cameron later?
Yes, sir, that was when he told me.
What did he tell you?
They left a pair of forceps in my man at the first operation.
This conversation was on November the 10th, the day that your husband died.
Yes.
And the first operation was on October the 25th.
Yes.
And you were told about the pair of forceps on November the 10th.
Yes.
After your husband's death.
Yes.
What did Dr. Cameron tell you?
He said the forceps had nothing to do with my husband's death.
To what did he attribute your husband's death?
The burst ulcer.
And that is what appears on the death certificate?
Effects of perforated ulcer.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray.
Is that all, Mr. Collins?
Yes, my lord.
Mr. Bairn?
No questions, my lord.
You may stand down, Mrs. Murray.
You're unlucky again, Janet. There's only me to get my trotters on the trough.
Could they not face it? Is it going so badly?
If I were on the jury, I'd find for Mrs. Murray. Collins makes me feel guilty of everything, including cannibalism.
Oh, it's early yet, Dr. Finley.
It's not too early for Dr. Cameron to get the wind up about the wrong thing.
What do you mean?
He still says that he and Mr. Geddes ought not to have the same advocate. At this stage.
Dr. Finley, you don't think it was Dr. Cameron's fault?
The point is, Janet, that Dr. Cameron thinks so.
Where is he?
Well, the solicitor took him off to lunch. To tell him to be his age, I hope.
Do we have any choice about our ages, Dr. Finley?
We don't have any choice about anything. We've all got to bleed. And Mr. Geddes is first for the knife.
Mr. Geddes, how long have you been an honorary consultant surgeon to the cottage hospital?
7 years. How long, Mr. Bain? I didn't hear the witness's answer.
7 years, my lord.
Thank you, Mr. Bain.
Private patients apart, Mr. Geddes, your work at the hospital is done without charge.
That is so.
Mr. Murray was not a private patient.
Mr. Murray was a patient. His condition was grave. He needed surgery at the earliest possible moment.
What do you mean by his condition was grave?
It meant that Dr. Cameron and I agreed that the patient would very probably die if he were not operated on.
Why do you operate?
To sew up the hole in the stomach wall and to clean out the surrounding area.
Did you do this for Mr. Murray?
In part.
Did you not finish the job?
A crisis occurred. Dr. Cameron, who was acting as anesthetist, instructed me to get the patient off the table.
Why, Mr. Geddes?
Because he would have died under the anesthetic had I continued.
I see. Now, let's be quite clear of this point, Mr. Geddes. We're talking of the first operation.
That is correct.
Thank you. Now, you say Dr. Cameron instructed you to get Mr. Murray off the table. Instructed? Are you not in charge of the operation?
Yes, of course. The responsibility is mine. But one ignores anesthetists at one's peril. If he says get him off, one gets him off.
Do you examine the evidence and make up your own mind?
Certainly not. You get the patient sewn up before he comes to. The anesthetic has been cut off.
You were assisted in this case by Dr. Finley. When this emergency came upon you, what did you ask of Dr. Finley?
I asked him to give a choramine injection. It was probably this injection which saved Mr. Murray's life on that occasion.
You were required to work at great speed.
Every second counted.
Mr. Geddes, what was necessary before you sewed up the incision?
I had to try to remove every swab and instrument that was still in the abdomen.
In normal circumstances, what is done with these swabs and instruments?
They are counted. They are counted as they're used, and they're counted as they come out.
How many instruments are used in an operation of this kind?
60.
60? And all are counted?
It is a vital drill.
For whom, Mr. Geddes? For you?
No, not for me. I merely ask whether the count is correct before closing the wound. The theatre sister is responsible for the count.
When it is possible to make a count?
Yes.
Are there occasions when it is not possible to make a count?
Yes, and this was one. I could not wait for the count. I had to get him off the table or he would have died.
If you had taken the precaution of waiting for the count, what would have happened?
The patient would have died on the table in spite of the choramine injection.
So, you were between the devil and the deep blue sea.
I was not conscious of a choice. But of course there was a choice. Possible death from an overlooked instrument, or certain death on the table.
An unenviable position, a surgeon's nightmare,
It is not a nightmare at the time, my lord.
That comes after, Mr. Geddes.
Yes, my lord.
At the time, however, you were unlucky. You missed one instrument in 60.
Yes.
Did you attend the post-mortem examination of the patient?
Yes.
Did you find any sepsis where the one instrument was left?
None at all. Its presence had made not the slightest difference to the patient's condition.
Now, about the second operation, why did you carry it out?
Because I had not finished the repair of the stomach wall in the first operation.
Because Mr. Murray had collapsed?
Yes.
So the second operation would have been necessary even if no instrument had been left inside it?
It was essential.
You did not operate to recover the instrument?
I did not.
No further questions, my lord?
Mr. Collins?
Mr. Geddes, you have told the court that you reacted instantly when told by Dr. Cameron to get the patient off the table.
Yes.
You went straight into an emergency routine.
That is so.
Is this strictly true?
Come,
sir. You are human. Not one glance at the patient's face.
Well, yes, that's what you mean.
Did you doubt Dr. Cameron's judgment?
Certainly not.
Then why did you look for yourself?
It was a mere flick of the eye.
What did you see with your flick of the eye?
The patient was very white, and was sweating.
Is this uncommon?
It is a matter of degree. But Dr. Cameron's assessment was not only based...
If you please, Mr. Geddes, Dr. Cameron may speak for himself. I presume he will be called, Mr. Ben.
He will.
Now, Mr. Geddes, my learned friend has asked you many questions about what you called an instrument. Must we be mealy-mouthed in this matter?
Is that a question?
I thought it was. Must we forever call it an instrument?
I will accept any accurate term.
But instrument is the term you prefer. Mr. Geddes, an instrument may be something very small.
Some instruments are very small.
But if we call it a pair of forceps, we know that it is not small.
Relatively, no.
Then we may refer to a pair of forceps as a pair of forceps.
Certainly.
Something as big and solid as this.
Yes.
This is the kind of thing you left in Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Not an easy thing to overlook.
It is surprisingly easy.
Oh, you've done it before?
My lord, I protest.
Mr. Geddes, you're not obliged to answer that question.
My lord, I have no objection to answering it. I have never overlooked one before.
Then the oversight is not all that difficult to avoid.
It depends on the circumstances.
Ought it to depend on the circumstances? Oughtn't it to depend in all circumstances on the skill of the surgeon?
There are limits to the skill of a surgeon.
Are you telling the court that you're a surgeon of limited skill?
Every surgeon's skill is limited.
Then let us determine your limits, Mr. Geddes. You have told the court that a large number of instruments were used during the first operation on Mr. Murray.
Yes.
The number 60 was mentioned.
Yes.
And there were the swabs, too.
Yes.
But you recovered all the swabs.
Yes, and 59 of the 60 instruments.
Mr. Geddes, are you proud of that?
I thought it commendable in the circumstances.
Was it an extraordinary feat?
No.
Mr. Geddes, if there is nothing extraordinary in recovering all the swabs and 59 of the instruments, even in an emergency, did you not fall below a proper level of competence when you left the 60th in the wound?
You are taking a virtue and turning it into a weakness.
If you could recover 59, why could you not recover 60?
Even a surgeon needs luck.
As a surgeon, do you ask us to live or die by luck under your knife?
What about his knife? This is murder.
We are here to suffer it, but not in silence. Your turn will come.
Now, Dr. Finley, you were assisting Mr. Geddes before the crisis.
I was, Mr. Ben.
Did you assist him during the crisis?
Well, the nature of my task changed.
Well, you were administering a coramine injection.
Yes.
Did you help Mr. Geddes remove the swabs and instruments from the abdomen?
No, I had my hands full.
No further questions, my lord?
Mr. Collins, you attempted to inject coramine, Dr. Finley?
Attempted? I did inject coramine.
You had no trouble at all giving the injection?
No, it was straightforward.
You were not pressed for time?
Well, I certainly was.
But you did all that was necessary?
Yes.
Dr. Finley, whatever your other responsibilities may have been, you did succeed, although pressed for time, in doing something that helped to save the patient's life on that occasion.
Oh, yes, I suppose I did.
Now, let us turn to another matter.
Arden House? Oh, Mrs. Bard, the exchange has already been asked to put all our calls through to Dr. Snoddy. What? Did you call to discuss Mrs. Murray's case or Mr. Barr's backache? No doubt Dr. Cameron will be happy to discuss both with you when he comes back. Now, if you will kindly ring off, I can go to the court.
Now, Dr. Finley, cast your mind back to what has been called the crisis. You heard Dr. Cameron say, get him off the table.
I did.
Did you look at the patient?
I looked at Dr. Cameron when he spoke.
And then?
Mr. Geddes spoke to me. He said, coramine injection.
And then you looked at the patient?
Now, when Mr. Geddes spoke, I looked at him. Then I turned away from the table. I didn't look at the patient at all.
Then you don't know that he was collapsing?
If Dr. Cameron says so, that's good enough for me.
Are all your judgments based on loyalty?
No. Experience. In this case, experience of Dr. Cameron.
Your partner?
Yeah.
Senior partner?
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Finley.
Mr. Baird?
My lord, I submit that in Dr. Finley's case, there is no evidence to go to the jury.
I accept your submission, Mr. Baird. Dr. Finley will be dismissed from the action. Dr. Finley, you may stand down.
My lord...
Well?
It's just that,
Don't you want to be dismissed from the action, Dr. Finley?
Oh, yes, I suppose so, but it's...
Then stand down.
Yes, my lord.
Dr. Cameron.
Repeat after me. I swear by Almighty God.
I swear by Almighty God.
And as I shall answer to God on the great day of judgment.
As I shall answer to God on the great day of judgment.
That I will tell the truth.
I will tell the truth.
The whole truth. And nothing.
Good day, Constable.
Good day, Miss Macpherson.
Is this the right door?
It is, for honest citizens.
Well, I have no previous convictions, Constable.
Well, just nip in quietly. Dr. Cameron's in the box now. I am an honorary physician, Mr. Bain.
And how long have you held that post?
For 19 years.
Does this work involve the operating theatre?
It does.
In what capacity, Doctor?
Sometimes as a surgeon, a relatively minor surgery most of the time, as an assistant to visiting consultants, and as an anaesthetist.
How often do you act as an anaesthetist?
I cannot be precise. Once or twice a month, perhaps.
Over 19 years?
Yes.
Then, would you describe yourself as an expert anaesthetist?
I think so. I think I may make that claim.
Have you had any experience of cardiac collapse during surgical operations?
I have.
Have you at times expected it?
There had been occasions when it was a possibility, a risk to be taken when surgery could not be avoided.
And has it ever come as a complete surprise to you?
Yes. Perhaps half a dozen times in 19 years. But surprise is not quite the right word. Collapse has occurred when the patient's condition did not suggest the possibility.
The unexpected does not surprise you.
One is prepared for anything. Nobody can possibly tell how anesthesia will affect a patient. Every patient is a law unto himself.
Did you expect cardiac collapse in Mr. Murray's case?
No, but I watched for it.
What did you do when it came?
I told the surgeon to get him off the table at once. I cut off the nitrous oxide.
Why did you want him off the table?
Because he would have died if anesthesia continued.
What did your instruction imply to the surgeon?
It meant leaving undone what he would normally do. It meant the exercise of great skill in the worst possible conditions. Mr. Gareth's reaction to my request was an extraordinary display of dexterity and speed. He would not say so, but I see it.
Mr. Geddes accepted your instruction. Was that his duty?
It was.
Was it a matter in which he could make up his own mind?
It was not. The decision was mine. He was obliged to accept it, whatever the consequences.
The responsibility was yours?
Yes, for the decision and all that followed.
Now, Dr. Cameron, was it also your decision that Mrs. Murray should not be told about the forceps?
It was. If I had told her, she could not have kept it from her husband. That would not have helped.
I understand. And finally, Dr. Cameron, did you, as the anaesthetist, do anything you should not have done?
I did not.
And the patient did not die on the table?
He did not. He survived, and in due course, he rallied.
Thank you, Dr. Cameron.
And in due course, Dr. Cameron, he died.
Yes, Mr. Collins. After another operation.
For the removal of a pair of forceps left behind during the first operation?
No, sir. An operation to complete unfinished surgery.
Dr. Cameron, if that operation in the stomach had been completed before the patient collapsed, it would not have been necessary to operate again.
For that purpose, no.
But it would have been necessary to operate again to remove a pair of forceps.
You are making an hypothesis. I cannot discuss hypotheses.
Isn't the cardiac collapse itself an hypothesis?
Your question is not as clear as it might be.
Oh, one does one's best. I will try again. Dr. Cameron, who decided that the patient's heart was giving out?
I did.
Does anyone but you claim to have seen signs of collapse?
No.
You alone saw the signs, if signs there were. For everyone else, Dr. Cameron, is it not hypothesis?
I have heard no one reject it.
That is natural, is it not?
It is proper. It was my duty to see. It was not theirs.
Dr. Cameron, how old are you?
I am 66.
A time of life in which the faculties begin to fail?
It is the price one pays for experience. Life, one hopes, maintains the balance.
One hopes. Life has been known to tilt the balance unfairly.
Yes. Otherwise, no one could say there is no fool like an old fool.
Dr. Cameron, are you an old fool?
If I am, my lord, my opinion is not worth having. But if my opinion is worth having, then I am not an old fool.
I find Dr. Cameron is in full possession of his faculties, and I myself am not yet senile. Pray proceed, Mr. Collins, in the full vigor of your youth.
Thank you, my lord. Dr. Cameron, will you tell the court why you thought the patient was collapsing? What did you see?
The signs of cardiac collapse are
A rapid, thready pulse, rapid, shallow breathing, blueness of the lips, extreme pallor.
Dr. Cameron, that's not what I asked you.
No, Mr. Collins?
No, my lord. Dr. Cameron, I asked you what you saw.
I do not know what I saw. Not now.
What now? You accept responsibility for all that followed, but you do not know what you saw.
No, I only know what I must have seen.
I ask for facts, and you offer an inference based on your own decision. Dr. Cameron, a man is dead. A wife is widowed. I ask for an explanation, and you offer the court chop logic.
I offer nothing of the kind. I offer the truth.
You don't know what led you to say get him off the table.
You are talking about a few seconds of time, the heat of a past moment. Do you think I sat there and diagnosed his condition? Do you think that? I did not count his pulse rate. I did not analyze his respiration rhythm. I recognized cardiac collapse as a dog recognizes a bone, and as a dog reacts, I react.
But you are not a dog. You are a doctor. You are articulate.
For the remembrance of a moment in time, I am no more than a dog.
Dr. Cameron, have you been asking yourself the question I have implied? Have you been asking, was it cardiac collapse, or was I mistaken?
Of course I have. My decision put a distinguished surgeon in this box. Also my young and valued partner. Do you imagine I have not questioned my own skill? Do you think I've gone easy to my bed since Murray died? I believe he would have died on the table. I cannot prove it, even to myself.
You could have been wrong.
Well, that is every man's burden. I share it.
That is all, my lord.
Mr. Geddes, he's crucified himself.
No, wait. The sheriff.
Dr. Cameron. My lord. In this crisis, if the patient had died on the table as a result of cardiac collapse, what would have happened to you and Mr. Geddes and Dr. Finley? Well, there would have been a very thorough investigation by the Procurator Fiscal, my lord. Do you suppose that this would have led to an action against you, either criminal or civil? It is extremely unlikely. And if you kept the patient alive by the exercise of your professional skill, you made a cross for your own back. My lord, you see where it has brought us all. Aye, very well. Now, Dr. Cameron, if I may trouble you to return for a moment to a point you made
The tea is ready, Dr. Finley.
In the silver pot, I hope. The sheriff found for us.
Oh, well, of course.
Oh, I see. He found for us with the expenses.
Naturally. Where is the doctor?
You mean the doctor? I'm a doctor too, Janet. No, he hung on to have a word with Mr. Geddes.
Well, Mr. Geddes would want to thank him properly, Dr. Finley.
I wouldn't know. He asked Dr. Cameron into that great hearse of a car. There they sat together. Two aging men. They knew that I didn't speak their language.
Did you know?
Yes, I did. I was out in the cold because I was young.
Time will look after that. Here he is now. Will you have some tea, Dr. Cameron?
No, thank you, Janet.
Would you prefer a dram, Doctor?
No, Dr. Cameron's taking surgery, but I'll have one.
One moment. Dr. Finley, I'd be grateful if you'd take surgery for me.
Well, of course. If you're tired.
I'm not in the least tired.
No?
No. Nevertheless, I'd be grateful if you'd take surgery for me.
Dr. Cameron, you'll have to face them sometime.
Face them?
And after all, you did win.
Do you suppose I am afraid to face them because my name is a byword?
Well, there's no point in giving them a chance to put the knife in. You know what they're like.
I do indeed. I knew them when you were wearing short trousers, if you've been breeched at all. As you say, we won, and they will congratulate me on getting away with it. But be assured, Dr. Finley, that will not trouble me.
Well, it'll madden me, so why don't you go in and relieve me of the burden, eh?
What do you know of burdens?
That they were made to be shared. Dr. Cameron, why aren't you honest with me And with yourself.
What the devil do you mean?
I've seen this growing since Murray died.
Murray's dead and done with.
Man, this house is haunted by Murray. Since he died, you've consulted me about your patients 3 times a week, every week.
You exaggerate.
It's the plain truth, Dr. Cameron.
You should be flattered, Dr. Finley.
Why? It was obvious you only wanted reassurance. If I disagreed with your diagnosis, I never had cause, you'd have been shattered.
It would take a great deal more than that to shatter me.
Oh, it takes a dead man and a live advocate. Murray demoralized you. Collins finished the job. You're convinced that you're slipping.
A brutal word, Dr. Finley.
All right. You no longer trust your own judgment. And there's no greater burden for any doctor.
Haven't I cause?
No, you have not.
How old are you, Dr. Cameron? Think I haven't put that question to myself? Do you think I have not answered it? Too old.
You were also asked if you were an old fool. Are you?
I left it open.
Well, I don't leave it open, Dr. Cameron.
Dr. Finley,
What?
please.
Now, look here. How do you think Collins feels now? Off back to Edinburgh with his tail between his legs.
No advocate wins all his cases.
And no doctor saves all his patients.
It's quite a different matter.
Oh, is it? Well, let Collins lose 3 cases like this, 3 in a row, and he'll begin to look sideways at himself. But if he's not a fool, he knows that luck will run his way again. It's a matter of time, you see, not talent.
He's got time, so have you. How much time have I?
Oh, another 10 years as a doctor. But if you've lost confidence in your own judgment, Dr. Cameron, you'd better sell your share of the practice, or let me sell mine, because you're a dangerous passenger.
How dare you? Janet, if I am wanted, I am in the surgery.
That was very cruel, Dr. Finley.
Surgery without anesthetic. Aye, but it worked.
Aye. It worked. Thank you. A cup of tea, Dr. Finley.
You've been listening to The Greatest Burden, written and adapted by Harry Green from the television series of Dr. Finlay's Casebook, based on the characters created by A.J. Cronin and broadcast by arrangement with Graham Stewart. The cast was as follows: Dr. Cameron, Andrew Cruikshank; Janet, Barbara Mullen; Dr. Finlay, Bill Simpson; Mr. Geddes, James Thomason; Mr. Collins, Russell Hunter; Mr. Ben, Fraser Carr; the Sheriff, John Dunbar; Mrs. Murray, Kathleen Helm; Mr. Smith and Constable, Malcolm Hayes. The play was produced by Peter Titheridge.
The Shoplifter by A.R. Rawlinson. An elderly lady is brought before a store security officer accused of shoplifting. Have you ever done this sort of thing before? No, at least. I did once help to steal something. What? An ocean-going liner, produced and directed by Gordon House.
Distressingly large. But to secure a true comparison between the figures for the current theft losses and those of the previous year, it is important to recognize... Damn. Come in. What is it, Miss Oliver?
Sorry to disturb you, Mr. Grinton.
I'm trying to dictate the final statistics so that you can type them straight away.
I do realise that, Mr. Grinton, but Mrs. Fryer from Haberdashery is here with the suspect.
Oh, I've forgotten all about them. Well, they'll have to wait.
The suspect is an elderly lady, and she's getting rather impatient.
What do you mean by elderly?
Well, not old by any means, but she's well into her 60s.
The nice, genteel type?
You could put it that way, Mr. Grinton.
They're usually the worst of the lot. I suppose she's indulging in hysterics.
On the contrary, she's completely calm. All she wants, she says, is to get this unfortunate mistake cleared up and go home.
Well, that suits me. I think you gave me the details, didn't you?
I put them on your desk. I've got her shopping bag in my room.
Ah, here we are. Yes, the stock excuse. Just absent-mindedness. That shouldn't take long. Let's show her in.
Very good, Mr. Grinton. And Mrs. Fryer?
Yes. No. It'll probably be quicker if I see the old lady alone. I'll buzz through if I need Mrs. Fryer. It's important to recognize the normal variations in gross loss as between the various departments of the store. It cannot be too strongly emphasized. It cannot be too strongly emphasized. Come.
Mrs. Bridgerton, Mr. Grinton.
Ah, Yes. Sit down, please.
Yeah.
My name is Grinton. Hardy Grinton.
Yes, so the lady has told me, and I gather that you're in charge of what is called security, and you're a very busy man. So the sooner we clear up this stupid little misunderstanding, the better for both of us.
Yes, yes. I take it that Mrs. Bridgerton is your real name.
Well, I wouldn't call myself that if it wasn't.
And your Christian names?
Just May. I've never really much cared for it, but my parents didn't give me another one, so I've no choice.
You're married?
A widow. I live in 121A Pemberton Street off the Earl's Court Road. Oh, you can confirm the address by looking in the telephone book.
Any family?
If you mean children, unfortunately, no.
Thank you. Now, it has been reported to me
that I stole some goods from your shop. And, of course, it's quite untrue.
I have here a list of the articles which were found in your shopping bag after you'd left the store.
Oh, may I see it, please?
Well, yes, if you wish.
Thank you. No, I'm afraid that isn't quite correct.
Are you denying?
I'm just saying this list isn't correct. There's no mention of a pair of stockings, which were also in the bag.
Very well, we'll add that to the list.
Thank you. So important to have all the details correct.
Now, can you produce any evidence that you paid for the goods on this list?
No, of course I can't. If I'd paid for them, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you, would I?
You admit that none of the goods were wrapped up.
Well, how could they have been? I mean, surely, Mr. Grinton, you're sufficiently familiar with the procedure in your own shop to know that nothing is wrapped up until it's been paid for at the pay desk.
Of course I'm familiar with our procedure, madam. It's this very fact that leads me to the inescapable conclusion that it was your intention to steal these goods.
You know, I really don't think you have the right to say that to me until I've explained to you what happened.
I'm prepared to listen to anything you have to say.
So I should hope, or we're both wasting our time.
Then please go ahead.
Well, every week I pot around your shop, collecting the bits and pieces that I need, and then I take them to the pay desk.
But today you didn't.
Ah, that's the whole point. I was on my way to the pay desk, and then I happened to catch sight of the clock, and to my horror, I saw it was 4:15.
Well, we don't close till 5:30.
I am perfectly aware when the shop closes, Mr. Grinton. What you're not aware of is my predicament. At 4:30, I was due to have tea with Mrs. Leadbitter. She lives on the floor below me in Pemberton Street. She's the most punctual person in the world.
So, regardless of the fact that you had a quantity of our goods in your shopping bag, you hurried out of the store without paying.
If you knew Mrs. Leadbitter, Mr. Grinton, I think you would have done the same.
Are you trying to say it was all just an absent-minded mistake?
Exactly.
Most days, madam, I'm asked to believe that unpaid-for goods found in customers' shopping bags got there of their own accord.
I imagine you're much too intelligent to be taken in by that sort of rubbish.
I am, Mrs. Bridgerton. So will you please answer me this question? Have you ever done this sort of thing before?
What sort of thing?
Tried to steal something?
Oh, no. At least.
Answer me, please.
It was a very long time ago.
Then you admit that you have stolen before?
Not quite. I did once help to steal something.
And what was it you helped to steal?
An ocean-going liner. A ship, you know.
Oh, Mrs. Bridgerton, can't you realize this is no joking matter?
I'm not joking. I did once help to steal a liner.
When was this?
During the war.
Where?
West Africa.
Go on.
Oh, it's a long story.
All I want are the bare facts.
Facts aren't much use if you don't understand the circumstances which give rise to them. I suppose the whole matter started in Surbiton.
Surbiton?
Surbiton. I was living there with my parents, you see. Oh, it was 1939. I remember it was a perfectly glorious spring morning, all the blossom out, sunshine and showers, typical April weather.
I don't need the meteorological details.
They're quite important, you know. Everyone behaves differently when the sun's shining. In England, that is. In West Africa, it can be rather trying.
Yeah, very well. Go on. I won't interrupt you again.
Well, it was that morning that Tom's letter arrived. And
Tom? Who's Tom? Sorry.
I was a little late that morning, and the rest of the family were having breakfast. My mother and father, and my younger brother and sister.
I can't think what's happened to May this morning.
Oh, she washed her hair last night, Mother.
I can't see why that should make her late for breakfast.
Yeah. She knew what was lying on her plate. Yes, she'd have rushed down in a nightgown.
Not May, dear. She's not a spur of the moment, like you.
That letter's postmarked Lagos, and that's Nigeria.
Ah, that's a bad habit to get into, Bill. Snooping on other people's correspondence.
Yes, but, Dad, it's from Tom.
And we all know he's her boyfriend. Oh, dear, how I dislike that expression.
What's wrong with it?
May's a girl and he's a boy and they're friends.
In my young days, they were known as beaux. So much nicer.
Ah, but you had them in the plural, Mother. Nowadays, we're quite content to have one at a time.
Yes, well, judging by the number of men swarming around her at the tennis club dance, May wouldn't agree with you.
Oh, John, that's not fair. May wasn't serious about any of them.
But she is about Tom.
So she ought to be. He's a pretty good chap.
Ah, there I agree with you, Bill. I like Tom Bridgerton. Not that I see all that much of him.
Oh, that's the trouble nowadays. Whenever a girl really looks like clicking with a fellow, she finds he's got a job in the colonial service.
Morning, everybody.
Oh,
Sorry, I'm late.
hello, May.
There you are.
I was in the middle of writing a letter.
To Tom,
I'll bet.
Yeah, if you look on your plate, you'll see he's beaten you to it.
Oh, so he has.
Eat your eggs and bacon while they're still warm, May.
That shows you how times have changed.
What does?
Well, in Mother's Day, she'd have tucked the letter into her bosom to read when she was locked in her bedroom.
What rubbish. You make me sound as though I were contemporary of Jane Austen.
Well, Jane Austen didn't have any.
Good gracious. What's the date today, please?
April the 9th.
Dear, that makes it such a rush still.
What are you talking about?
Tom's got his promotion.
What to?
DO.
But he always was a DO.
In the Nigerian Colonial Service.
No. He was an ADO, Assistant District Officer. And we both agreed we couldn't get married until he became a DO.
What?
What did you say?
Well, it couldn't have been done, Mother. The pay just wouldn't have stood it.
Now, wait a minute. Are you telling us that you and Tom have been secretly engaged?
No, there was nothing particularly secret about it. There just didn't seem any point in making it public till he'd got his promotion. Now he has. Well, isn't anybody going to congratulate me?
Don't you realise this has come as a bit of a shock?
Surely you could have taken your mother and me into your confidence.
Oh, Dad, that's not fair. I've told you directly I've had anything to tell.
I don't think you realise the situation. Our elder daughter tells us out of the blue she's proposing to get married, full stop. But our wedding's a family affair. We're all affected by it.
But not as much as the bride and bridegroom. Surely they come first.
What you've got to remember, May, is that it's the bride's parents that are responsible for organising the wedding, that needs time.
No worries there. Tom can't get home leave for over a year, so he wants me to...
That does make it sound a bit more reasonable. I mean, there are all the clothes to be thought of. And,
Mother, let me finish. Tom doesn't see any point in waiting for a year, so he wants me to go out to Lagos and get married there.
What?
No! His resident's wife. She's terribly nice, very kind. I met her when Tom was on his last leave, and she's promised to see me through, and the resident himself will give me away.
I've never heard of such a thing in my life.
As Tom says in his letter, no one could expect you and Dad to spare the time to come all the way to Lagos. Never mind the cost of the passages.
That's got nothing to do with Tom.
Oh, Dad, we're only trying to be practical. Tom's booked my passage and he's paying for it himself.
But, May, you can't go by yourself.
Why not?
Well, even if you were an experienced traveller...
Which you're not. Listen, May, I don't think you realise what you're letting yourself in for.
No, I don't, Mother. But I've got to risk it.
That's rubbish. You can tell Tom I won't permit it.
It isn't a question of permission, Dad. I shall be 26 next birthday. And I've got to make up my mind for myself.
Oh, how can you, May, with your limited experience?
I have already done so. If that's the way that Tom wants it, that's the way it's going to be. Nothing anybody says is going to stop me sailing for West Africa on April the 29th.
Wonderful night.
Oh, it's pretty hot.
Not for West Africa. But you'll soon get used to it. Good dance, isn't it?
Most enjoyable.
Then why haven't you shown up at any of the other dances?
How do you know I haven't?
Oh, we ship's officers make a point of knowing what our passengers are up to. So, what's your excuse?
I never make excuses.
Ah, you always tell the truth?
Always.
Right. Then come clean. Why is this your first appearance?
Well, tonight, for the first time on the voyage, the sea's calm.
You're a bad sailor.
Ever since we left Tilbury, I've been lying flat on my back, hoping I'd die.
But now life seems worth living again, hmm?
Oh, as long as the weather stays like this. Which I hope it will, till we reach Lagos.
Tomorrow.
Can't be too soon for me.
I imagine there'll be someone to meet you.
I hope so.
Is it permitted to ask who?
My fiancé.
Oh.
I've come out to be married.
If I may say so, he's a very lucky man.
I hope he is.
What do you mean? Hope?
That I'll make the grade.
Oh, of course you will.
Well, I imagine West Africa's a bit different from what I'm used to.
That's inevitable. I only hope it won't disappoint you.
Once I'm with Tom, life will be perfectly normal.
Won't be long now before she docks.
I must say, Tom, for a chap waiting to meet a girl he hasn't seen for nearly a year, you're remarkably calm.
Why on earth shouldn't I be? May and I are getting married.
Supposing she's met some charmer on the boat.
Quite possible.
But you're still confident in your own sex appeal.
I'm confident in May. Once she's made up her mind, that's it. She never has second thoughts.
Speaking as one DO with considerable experience, to another DO who has very little, watch out you don't become big-headed.
And you watch out you don't become a pompous ass, Mervyn. Just because you happen to be stationed here in Lagos, hobnobbing with the governor and other local bigwigs.
Well, she's alongside. Quite a crowd lining the boat deck rails. Any sign of her?
Not so far.
Oh, here comes your resident and his missus.
They said they'd try and get down to meet May. You do know them, don't you?
Of course I know Jimmy Send and Mrs. Jimmy. Any sign of your girl yet?
No.
Going to look a bloody fool if she's not on board.
Here we are, Bridgerton. I gather we've just made it in time.
Yes, sir. Rather. May's not yet off the ship.
Oh, good. I wanted May to see a familiar face to greet her.
I imagine she might recognize Tom, Jenny.
Oh, you know what I mean, Jim.
I think you know Mervyn Grant Ellison.
Yes, of course. You're going to be best man, aren't you?
Well, that's the idea, Mrs. Send. Not a very suitable choice, I'm afraid.
Oh, now, stop running yourself down.
Looks as if most of the passengers have already disembarked.
I say, Tom, who's the girl by herself?
Over there.
It's May.
Ah. Go on, Tom. Nip over to the gangway and greet her. We'll follow more sedately.
Hello, May.
Hello, Tom.
Are you all right?
Yes. Yes, I am now.
Hardly what I'd call an emotional encounter.
They're completely tongue-tied, poor darlings. May, I can't tell you how delighted I am to see you.
Oh, hello, Mrs. Send. It's awfully kind of you to come and meet
Oh,
me.
nonsense. It's the natural thing to do. I don't think you met my husband, have
No,
you?
it's about time we did meet. How can I give away someone I don't know?
Please don't worry about that, Mr. Send. It's only symbolic, you know.
Huh? Oh, yes, of course.
If it's any bother to you, I'll give myself away.
Yes. Well, the least you can do, Tom, is to introduce me, even though I'm only to be the best man.
Sorry. May, this is Mervyn Grant Ellison.
I was sure it was the moment I saw you.
Oh, so I look like a best man, do I? I hope not on the principle of always a bridesmaid, never a bride.
I can't answer that until I know you better.
No, I suppose you can't.
And I suppose we get along. You come with us in the car, May.
Thank you.
We'll leave the bridegroom-to-be and his best man to cope with your baggage. Now, we'll all meet at dinner tonight and get down to arrangements. After all, the wedding's the day after tomorrow.
You haven't told us anything about the voyage out yet, May.
There isn't much to tell, Mr. Send. I spent it almost entirely alone.
That's bad. Usually one finds a very cheerful crowd on those boats, especially the ship's officers.
There was one who was very kind.
Was that the chap who organised your baggage? He struck me as a bit of a lounge lizard.
Well, it's their job, Tom, to see that the passengers have an enjoyable and comfortable trip.
Oh, it wasn't anybody's fault that I was on my own. You see, I'm a shocking sailor.
Oh, you poor dear.
I was seasick from the moment we sailed right up to yesterday.
Oh, so there were moments when you'd have given anything not to have come.
Oh, of course there weren't. I'd have been glad to die at the time, but that's quite different.
So you're not an experienced traveller?
No, Mr. Send. Up till now I've been very much a home bird.
But you enjoy new experiences?
Not for themselves. I'm not what you'd call a sightseer.
Then I wonder you came.
I came to marry Tom.
I missed that.
May's paying you compliments, Tom. But as I don't want one of my dears to get cocky, please keep him out of our conversation, Jenny.
Orders is orders. You'll have to concentrate on me, Tom.
Yes, of course.
So, what it amounts to is you're prepared to face hell and high water to get what you want.
Hell's no problem because I don't believe in it. But I have faced high water. Well, rough water anyway.
And not even that shook your purpose.
Certainly not. When I've made up my mind, I don't let anything put me off.
That's splendid, my dear. Hang on to that philosophy and you'll be all right.
I call it downright gallant.
I call it common sense, Mr. Grant Ellison.
Look, as I'm going to be best man, couldn't you bring yourself to call me Mervyn?
I'll ask Tom if he thinks it's all right.
I don't think you'll have any objections.
Oh, in that case, of course I will. It's just that it's different from what I'm used to. I've never been much of a one for Christian names.
You're bound to find life out here a bit different, May. In detail, that is, not, of course, in essence.
For instance, do you ride?
A bicycle, certainly. I've never tried on a horse, but I'll soon learn.
Good for you.
I suppose it's really essential I should, so that I can keep Tom company when he goes on trek through the bush.
Ah, that's when you'll need the bicycle.
Oh?
In our province, we can't use horses. It's tsetse country.
Tsetse?
A fly with a poisonous sting, fatal to horses and cattle.
Oh, but not to bicycle tyres.
What's the joke?
Oh, have I said something stupid?
No, my dear. Apt and funny.
Oh, surely not. I'm no good at making jokes.
Oh, come along, May. I think it's time for the ladies to retire.
Yes, of course.
And as there's such a lot to arrange in a very little time, we'll co-opt Tom, leaving you, my dear, to entertain Mr. Grant.
No, that's all right. First time you've been taken for a lady, eh, Tom?
I'm sure you'll be great help. You must tell me that.
Glass of port.
Thank you, sir.
Well, Grant Ellison, what's your verdict?
I'm damned if I know, sir.
I like her.
Oh, I'm not saying I don't, but it's a tricky situation.
In what way?
With her background and her nature, can you see her coping out here?
Well, she says she'll learn. I think she probably will.
What really bothers me, sir, is I don't believe she's got a sense of humour.
Well, you can't expect the girl to have everything.
I'd have said it's pretty important, especially out here.
What about Tom?
Oh, he's got a good sense of the ridiculous. One can always make him laugh.
In the final analysis, laughter isn't everything. May has one great compensation.
Which is, sir?
Guts.
Oh, now, look here, Mrs. Bridgerton, this won't do.
What won't, Mr. Grinton?
What you told me. It was a private conversation between Mervyn and Mr. Send.
That's right.
Well, how could you have possibly known anything about it?
Because Mervyn told me.
When?
Well, later on, of course. You'll see how it works in when I get there.
Mrs. Bridgerton, all I'm asking for are basic facts and not getting them.
What an impatient man you are. I'm giving you the facts one by one as they happened.
Then may I have the next fact, please?
Well, that's our honeymoon.
And it was on your honeymoon that you helped to steal this liner?
Of course not. It wasn't there then.
Wasn't where?
Fernando Po. It's a pity in a way because the Cameroons are much nearer to Fernando Po than Nigeria is.
The Cameroons?
Yes, that's where we spent our honeymoon. You know all about the Cameroons, of course.
I know nothing about the Cameroons.
Oh, perhaps geography isn't your strong point.
My geography, madam.
No, well, never mind. I'll explain it to you. You see, in those days, they were mandated territory from the League of Nations.
You mean, I suppose, the United Nations?
No, I don't. The territory was captured from the Germans in the First World War and was divided by the League of Nations into the British Mandate, which bordered on Nigeria, and the French Mandate, which bordered on the British bit. Now, Tom had once done some detachment duty in the British zone, so he knew it quite well. He'd also got to know some of his opposite numbers in the French bit.
Look, Mrs. Bridgerton, I'm not really very interested in the Cameroons.
Oh, you should be, you know. It's a beautiful country. What's more, it's free from fly.
Free from what?
Tsetse fly, which means it's all right for the horses. That's why we went there for our honeymoon, so that Tom could teach me to ride.
Oh, yes. I gather that was essential if you were to accompany your husband on trek in the bush. But
oh, dear, I'm afraid you've got it all wrong. It's bicycles in the bush.
There's no need to ring your bell all the time.
Well, it's a very twisty track.
The boys are making enough din to scare man or beast off the trail for miles.
Tom, can we
Stop a minute.
All right.
I'm out of breath. Oh. How long is it since we left Enugu?
8 days. Finding it hard going?
Oh, no. I've never enjoyed anything so much. You know, I'm much happier on a bike than on a horse. Somehow, it's all sort of romantic.
I wouldn't call bikes romantic.
Well, what I mean is, it's as if it was all happening at the pictures. 26 carriers, great loads on their heads, our own cook, 3 servants.
And Stephen.
Why do we call him head boy? I mean, he must be nearly 40.
Always have done. Some of the chaps call them stewards. What matters is to get a boy who knows his stuff. Oh, come on.
Right. Tom?
Yes?
Let's camp early this evening.
Why? Are you tired?
Oh, not particularly. But the sky's clear, and we could have our meal in the open instead of in the tent.
Fine by me. I'll fix it.
Good.
Stephen? Stephen!
Oh, that was jolly good.
Enjoyed your chop?
Oh, it wasn't chops, it was...
Chop, old girl. Pidgin English for food.
That's one thing I hadn't allowed for. Having to learn a new language.
You'll soon pick it up. By the way, tomorrow's only a short trek. Then we settle down for 2 or 3 days. That's when Stephen and the cook will really surprise you.
Oh, I'll be quite content to leave it to them. Oh, I think I'll turn in.
Right. I'll just finish my pipe.
Tom!
Yeah?
Come quickly!
What is it?
Oh, please, Tom, as quickly as you can.
On my way. What is it?
There's something over there, in the corner.
What's the panic, isn't it? Keep still, mate.
What is it?
Keep absolutely still. Don't move.
What are you going to do?
That's it. You can relax.
What was it?
A hooded cobra.
A snake?
It's all right. I've blown its head off.
If there's one thing in the world I'm terrified of, it's snakes.
A lot of them are quite harmless. Like our grass snake back home. When I was at school, I had one as a pet. It used to live up the sleeve of my jacket.
Oh, how revolting.
Actually, you want to watch out for hooded cobras. They're about the most poisonous of the lot.
You never told me there were snakes in the bush.
You can go for weeks without seeing one, and then suddenly run into a bevy of them.
A bevy of snakes? Oh, that can't be right.
Why not?
Well, a bevy of beauties, if you like, but...
What would you say if I did like?
Nothing.
You wouldn't be jealous?
No.
Why not?
Well, because I trust you.
I thought all women believed their husbands have a roving eye.
Oh, Tom, stop it.
I was only joking, you know.
I don't see anything funny in that sort of remark.
Sorry, old girl. I didn't realise how much it had shaken you up.
Well, I'll be on tenterhooks all tomorrow, just in case...
No need. All you've got to do is to stay put. I'll get the boys to comb through the bush. Why don't you have a long lie-in and listen to the wireless? I'll be back early. Hello, May. I'm back.
Oh, thank God. Oh.
Still a bit nervy, eh?
Oh,
what's worrying you?
Tom, it's war.
War? What on earth?
They've declared war. I heard it on the wireless.
Who's declared war on whom?
We have on Germany. The Prime Minister broadcast the news himself.
My God. I thought it was just another crisis.
Oh, never mind that. What are we going to do?
I know what I shall do. Join up.
The army?
Must be. I know nothing about the sea, and I don't fancy flying.
Where will you join up?
At home.
Well, if you're going home, I'm coming with you.
Come to think of it, you may be a damn sight safer in Enugu than in London. There's bound to be bombing.
No, I can't help that. I shall join the Red Cross or something. I couldn't bear not to be in England if there's going to be a war.
All right, if that's the way you feel. The first thing we've got to do now is to get back to Enugu and tackle Jimmy Send.
Sorry, Tom, can't be done.
But, sir...
Governor's orders. He's responsible for maintaining the administration of Nigeria. He can't spare any of his political officers.
But, Mr. Send, that's not fair. Tom feels it's his duty to join up. So do I.
Well, you're not the only ones, my dear, but orders is orders.
Given the choice, most of us would wish to be in England, trying to do our bit with our own folk around us. But our first duty must be to the service we belong to.
But at my age, I mean all my contemporaries will be in the forces.
While you, Tom, will be back in the bush finishing off your tour in the normal way. Come.
Sorry to disturb you, sir, but just as I was closing the office, Mr. Grant Ellison arrived from Lagos.
Mervyn?
He's carrying urgent and confidential papers for you, sir, from His Excellency the Governor.
Show him in, man, at once.
This way, please.
I hope to make it during office hours, sir.
Delighted to see you.
How are you, Mrs. Send? Tom and May, too.
Oh, well, I can answer for all of us. Pretty badly shaken.
Yes, everyone's in the same boat.
Will you have a drink? Unfortunately, Jenny and I are out for dinner tonight.
Then perhaps you can spare me a few minutes straight away, sir. His Excellency told me to put you in the picture about these papers, and I must start back at crack of dawn.
We'll go along to the office.
And perhaps so we can give Mervyn dinner.
Put him up for the night as well.
If I may say so, jolly good meal. I'm glad Stephen's living up to his reputation.
Chalk it up to May. She's got him eating out of her hand.
You can cope with the pigeon all right?
Oh, yes, thank you. I'm getting the hang of it now.
Now, push that decanter around and give us the lowdown.
Do you mind if I stay, since there aren't any other ladies?
You're welcome if you don't mind sharp. To start with, Mervyn, how come you're carrying dispatches?
When war broke out, the governor was asked to appoint a sort of local king's messenger.
Just for Nigeria?
No, to include wherever there's a British interest in West Africa. Gambia, Sierra Leone, Gold Coast, British Cameroons, even as far south as the British consul in Fernando Po.
And you got the job?
By the grace of God, I did.
You lucky devil.
Carries some useful perks with it.
Such as?
An ocean-going motor launch.
I can't say I envy you that.
The chief attraction is that I'm my own master, with direct access to the governor and the resident minister in Lagos.
Then surely you could persuade them to play ball with those of us who want to join up?
Not a chance. The governor got his instructions direct from the colonial office.
Mervyn, I suppose this job of yours is almost like being in the forces.
In a way. Technically, I'm on active service in a staff appointment.
Who wants to be on the staff? Active service means being in the front line.
Come along, Tom. It's very late. It's time you're in bed.
I'm cleaning my teeth. Damn and blast.
Oh, never mind the glass. It can be cleared up in the morning. Come to bed.
Coming.
Mervyn's job has upset you, hasn't it?
I'm not blaming him.
No. I know that.
He's a lucky, lucky bastard, that's all.
If I was Mervyn's wife, I'd agree with you.
What do you mean by that?
All the thrills, but not in the firing line.
That's not fair.
I can't help it, that's how I see it. It would never have suited you, you know?
Why on earth not?
Well, you'd never feel you were doing the right thing unless you were actually shooting and being shot at.
Rubbish.
You know perfectly well I'm right. And if you stopped to think for a minute, you'd know that I would be sick with anxiety.
Maybe, old girl, but...
There aren't any buts. Oh, Tom, it may be selfish, but I'm looking forward to hopping on our bikes tomorrow morning and just freewheeling off into the bush. And I don't even care about the snakes.
Mrs. Bridgerton, as far as I can see, we're no further forward whatsoever.
That's what I'm trying to explain to you, Mr. Grinton, nor was I. Oh, you can't imagine what I went through with Tom over the next 8 or 9 months. I don't expect you have any idea what frustration can do to a man.
Believe me, madam, I have a very shrewd idea.
Well, it lasted until June 1940, when we heard on the wireless of the collapse of France and the collaboration between the Vichy government and the Germans.
I should have thought that out in Nigeria that would have been the least of your worries.
On the contrary, the French general in command in the French Cameroons, he was a Vichy man.
Surely, Mrs. Bridgerton, it's not necessary to have to explore the whole political and military situation.
I'm just trying to make it easy for you to understand. Now, there were very few troops in the British Cameroons, and it was feared that the French might invade our zone and take over both territories. So, the governor of Nigeria agreed to raise a small contingent from the colonial service and send them to support the British military. And would you believe it? Tom got the job.
What job?
To command the contingent. Oh, he was like a dog with 2 tails. Off he went, hardly remembering to say goodbye to me. And it was then that things really started to happen.
Any chance anything to do with an ocean-going liner?
Oh, well done. I knew if I put it simply you'd catch on. Yes, it was arranged that while Tom was away, I should stay with friends in Lagos. Well, I hadn't been there a couple of days before I ran into Mervyn, who invited me to dine with him at the British Club.
Coffee, sir.
Black, please.
Madam?
White, please.
Liqueur?
Oh, no, thank you. Tom always says they're apt to give one spots.
You haven't told me how the old chap's getting on.
All right, I imagine.
You imagine? Haven't you heard from him? Thank you.
Well, we agreed corresponding might be difficult, so no news would be good news.
Tell me, May, were you surprised when I asked you to come and dine?
Not surprised, exactly. Curious.
No? Why?
I was pretty sure you had something at the back of your mind besides comforting a grass widow.
Dead right. I was anxious to offer you a very humble apology.
What on earth for?
The day you arrived in Lagos, at the Sen's dinner party, I told Jim Sen that I didn't think you had much sense of humour.
I'm not a great one for laughing, I admit.
And Jim's reply was, sense of humour or no sense of humour, what she's got is guts.
Guts. I always feel that what it stands for deserves a much less ugly word.
There you are. That proves I couldn't have been more wrong.
Well, I knew you didn't really approve of me.
I was worried that you wouldn't be able to cope with life out here. And you have, magnificently.
Thank you, Mervyn. It's always pleasant to get a bit of encouragement. But...
But what?
Well, I have the feeling there's something else you want to talk to me about.
You're right, of course. There is. Would you consider a job while Tom's away in the Cameroons?
A job?
Something which might take your mind off the basic anxiety. You are anxious, aren't you?
Well, of course I am. Would this job be here in Lagos?
No, Santa Isabel.
Santa Isabel? I've never heard of it.
It's the capital of Fernando Po.
Well, I've only just heard of that.
Oh, it's an offshore island down by the Cameroons and a Spanish colony. I only got back from there a few days ago.
Oh, what were you doing there?
Delivering some confidential dispatches to the British consul. He introduced me to the Spanish governor's wife, whose mother was English. Consequently, she has a strong sympathy for the Allied cause.
She's a neutral.
Yes, in theory. But anyway, she has 2 small children, and their governess, who is English, has just gone sick and will be in hospital for at least 3 weeks. So she asked me if I knew of any English women in Lagos who would take on the job just temporarily.
Oh, but I couldn't be a governess. I don't know how to teach.
Oh, well, perhaps I should have said nursery governess. What she really wants is someone to look after the kids.
Oh, you mean a nanny?
Well,
It isn't May Bridgerton. Oh. And with Mervyn Grant Ellison, of all people.
Don't see much of you in Lagos these days, Grant Ellison.
I have to get around a bit.
Oh, do tell me, my dear, what of Tom?
Oh, he's all right.
Oh, what a shatteringly anxious time you must be having. I mean, all that heavy fighting and so on.
I gather the French have turned really tough.
What?
One wouldn't have expected a bloodbath in the Cameroons.
Right, do tell me, what does Tom say about
Nothing. I never ask him. Military matters have nothing to do with me.
How right you are. If I had my way, people who spread completely unfounded rumours ought to be shot. Come along, May.
Oh, yes. Well, such rudeness.
Grant Ellison's getting too big for his boots.
I say, do you think it was because we caught them red-handed?
Shouldn't be surprised. Anyway, it's one way of getting a table.
Where are we going?
Somewhere we can talk in peace and quiet, instead of being talked about.
It never struck me there might be talk.
It should have struck me.
I must say, you were pretty sharp with them.
Well, fancy saying that to you. About the fighting in the Cameroons, knowing Tom was there.
Mervyn, do you think it's true that there's really been heavy fighting?
I know it isn't. I saw the governor and the resident minister this morning. They told me not a shot has been fired.
Oh, thank goodness. Now, where are we going?
To my launch.
Oh, if you think that I'm going sailing.
It's tied up to the jetty.
Yes, well, there it can stay.
Some more?
Please.
This is the first time I've seen you really relaxed this evening.
There's nothing so satisfying as a good cup of tea.
You won't expect me to agree with you.
You know, this cabin's really very cosy.
I prefer to call it the saloon. And it's as hot as hell in here during the day.
How many people can the boat carry?
We can sleep 2 in here and 2 in the cabin off the galley. The crew are up for it.
The crew?
An engineer and deckhand.
Oh, she's really quite big.
I told you, she's ocean-going. She brought me back from Fernando Po in under 48 hours. Which brings me back to the job I mentioned to you. What about it?
You want me to take it, don't you?
Yes.
Why?
I'd like to do the governor's wife a good turn.
For her sake or for yours?
Both. Come on, May, say you'll do it.
Sorry, Mervyn. Not until you tell me why.
I must say, May, you're damn difficult to do business with.
Not when I know what the business is.
Top secret business. War business.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I don't see how I can be much help in that.
Well, that's for me to judge. It means that I've got to gamble on you being able to keep your mouth shut.
Oh, well, that wouldn't be a gamble, Mervyn.
Grant Ellison. The War Cabinet knew all about this Italian ship from the moment she took refuge in Spanish territorial waters, when Italy declared war. And the Navy wanted to mount a raid to seize the vessel, arguing that such buckshe tonnage would be set off against the submarine sinkings. But it was turned down flat.
Can you wonder? A hostile act against Spain's neutrality might have brought her into the war.
And keeping Spain neutral is part of our overall strategy.
But I've never had in mind intervention by the armed forces, sir.
And how the blazes do you propose to get hold of the ship?
Steal her, sir.
What?
She's lying with her stern tied up to one of the breakwaters and her bow pointing out towards the harbour entrance, held by her anchor. A few light-fingered civilians arrive on a dark night, knock out any of the watch on duty. I'm told they're terribly slack. Cut the hawsers, blow the anchor chain with plastic explosive, and then away they go. That's not an act of war, sir. Just plain petty thieving.
And how do you expect a bunch of civilians to navigate a ship of that size?
Tow her, sir. They'd arrive from Lagos in a tug.
And tow her back all that way?
No, sir. Just 3 miles, till she's outside Spanish territorial waters. Then up come the Navy, put a prize crew on board, and we're 15,000 tons to the good.
You think the Navy would play?
Well, from inquiries I've made at my level, I'm pretty sure they'd jump at it.
I don't think the Navy would prove difficult, but who's going to plan it all?
It's half planned already, sir. I got a lot of dope from the British consul. Indeed, it was he who really put the idea into my head.
This consul, Norton, isn't it? Can you trust him?
I believe he's okay, sir, but I'd prefer him to be checked by MI6 first.
Well, naturally, that would present no difficulty, but in any case, as British consul, he mustn't be involved in any way.
Oh, I fully realise that, sir. That's why I propose to put in a contact of my own in Santa Isabel and only use the consul as a channel of communication. As to the actual operation...
Just a minute. I think the governor will agree with me that if you do bring it off, It's best that neither of us has any knowledge of the details.
What?
Well, if it's in any way official, I'm bound to have to veto it.
I'm not asking for any official support, sir. I'm prepared to carry the can.
You realize that if you do bring it off, your governor and I will probably get all the credit. And if you should fail, everyone will be down on you like a ton of bricks, and we won't lift a finger to help.
Oh, that's okay by me, sir. I've earmarked 2 chaps from the Marine Department and an ex-sapper who can cope with the explosives. If I may have your permission to recruit 6 reliable blokes from our service, just for 1 week, that's all I ask.
And you're suggesting that I should be your contact?
Yes,
But why me, of all people?
because this job with the Spanish governor's wife gives the perfect cover.
Oh, but I've no experience of this sort of secret thing. I don't even know that I'm competent to look after the children.
Rubbish. You've got a younger brother and sister, haven't you?
Well...
And I gather from Tom you managed to control them all right? Well, besides, there's no reason for the governor's wife to know that you haven't got a family of your own.
I'm not going to tell unnecessary lies. It'll be bad enough telling the necessary ones. Oh, I still don't understand what idea of what you want me to do.
Be my local eyes and ears.
Well, what do you want me to see and hear?
I'll give you notes which you can memorize on the voyage down and then burn. They'll include a very simple code which you can use in your letters and telegrams.
You mean I just go to the post office?
No. Hand them over to Norton and he'll see they go. He knows you're a devoted wife.
Well, at least that's true.
And that you like to write, or even cable, to your husband every day.
How do I address them?
To Tom, at my address here in Lagos.
Yes, but Tom won't know what they're all about.
Well, he won't get them. Everything that arrives addressed to Tom will be opened by me personally.
Oh. Suppose you want to get in touch with me?
Through Norton, in Tom's name and using the code.
I'm just beginning to appreciate one of the quotations I learned at school.
Quotation?
Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive.
Here we are, just in time. Now, here's an envelope containing a list of what I want you to report, and the code.
Yes.
And make sure you burn them before you go ashore.
Mervyn, I don't think I've got any matches.
Don't worry. Here's a box.
Thanks.
You'll be okay if you take my advice and head straight for the bar.
Oh, I shall head straight for my cabin and lie flat on my back in my bunk.
Oh, I've forgotten. You're not too good a sailor.
Well, on top of everything else you're asking of me, I should be glad if you'd remember that.
Then here's a bit of comfort for you. A letter from Tom, the real Tom, which arrived this morning.
Dear May, I hope you're fit and enjoying life. Oh, Tom, if you only knew. Sorry I haven't written before, but we've been pretty busy. The campaign's going fine, but as a war, it's a washout, not a shot fired. Thank God for that. I managed to contact some of the French chaps I knew and set about persuading them that de Gaulle was their man and not poor old Pétain and that Chocolat. But they funked disobeying their general, so I took a chance and barged into his headquarters and cornered him. Come in?
Buenos dias, señora. El desayuno.
What?
Breakfast, señora.
Oh, no. Take it away.
Perdóneme.
No quiero. Oh, I wish this bed would keep still. I think the old boy was mainly worried about his job. Anyhow, I got him to talk to the chaps, and when they told him they were for de Gaulle, he stepped over the boundary into our territory and demanded to be taken prisoner. He couldn't be parted from his enfant. So it ended in a right royal booze-up, and what those Frenchmen had in their cellar had to be drunk to be believed. To tell you the truth, which we always do to each other, oh, Tom, I've such a hangover I couldn't do anything else except scribble you a letter. Don't know when I'll get back. There's the devil of a lot of organising to do. Anyhow, I know you're all right with the Stephens in Lagos, knitting your soul out for the Red Cross. Oh. Oh, I wish I was.
Mrs. Bridgerton, I'm sure. Welcome to Santa Isabel.
Mr. Norton.
That's right. It's a great pleasure to meet you.
And for me.
Hey, you must have had a very pleasant voyage.
Well...
The weather's been very kind for this time of year. So often we get strong winds and a rough sea.
Oh, I'm glad I escaped those, Mr. Norton.
Well, I have my motor, so I suggest I take you and your baggage straight up to Government House.
What a beautiful place this is.
I hope that means you'll enjoy your stay with us.
If I give satisfaction to my employer, I shall. I'm not really sure just how good I'll be with the children. Oh, what an enormous ship. There in the harbour.
She's Italian. She took refuge in Spanish waters when Italy entered the war.
And now it's stuck here?
Unless it makes a bolt for it, which seems very unlikely.
Why?
Only a couple of days ago, they sent most of the officers and crew back by air via Spain, leaving a skeleton crew under the second officer.
Good gracious. Oh, I must write and tell my husband about that. I can just hear him saying, typical of the Italians.
I gather your husband's on active service in the Cameroons.
Yes, that's right. I can't get in touch with him direct, so I've got to address everything care of Mr. Grant Ellison in Lagos, and he'll do his best to get it through to Tom.
Well, if there's any way I can be of help...
Oh, that's very kind of you. If you could just show me where the post office is, so that I can inquire...
Look, Mrs. Bridgerton, you see that doorway?
Yes?
Well, that's my office. Government House is only a few hundred yards further on. Any letters, any telegrams you want sent, just drop them in there, and I'll see that they catch the first available post.
That's awfully kind of you.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Besides, one good turn deserves another. I've got the credit of helping Her Excellency out of a jam by introducing you.
Oh, I only hope I shan't let you down.
Of course you won't. She prides herself on being very English. So English, in fact, that some of the Spaniards here are quite shocked at her energy and independence. Now, we'll leave the car here and stroll up to the garden.
Oh, what about my luggage?
A servant will be sent to fetch it.
Is that Her Excellency, Mr. Norton?
Indeed it is. I told you she was energetic.
Oh, she must be to play tennis in this heat. Against a man, too.
That's the Italian ship's officer who's been left in charge of the liner. He's a great favourite.
Of Her Excellency's?
Yes, and of most of the residents here.
Oh.
They're all delighted he didn't have to go with the others.
Well, I must say, he is very good looking.
Yes, not a bad tennis player either.
Oh, I am furious, Paolo. I hate being beaten.
Surely, Signora, with your English blood, you are a good loser, no?
Oh, when I play tennis, I am all Spanish.
From now on, I remember that. But now you have visitors, huh?
Ah, Mr. Norton.
I hope I'm not intruding, Your Excellency, but I thought you'd wish me to bring Mrs. Bridgerton to you.
Of course. No one is more welcome than Mrs. Bridgerton.
How do you do?
I hope you had a comfortable voyage from Lagos and no alarms.
Oh, everything was quite peaceful, except the sea.
There, I guess, speaks a sufferer from seasickness, eh?
Yes, I'm afraid I am.
Madam, don't be ashamed of it. You are in good company. You're Admiral Nelson, Captain Cook, and myself.
Don't pay any attention to Paolo. Like all Italians, he talks first and thinks after. Now, Mrs. Bridgerton, if you will come with me, you shall meet the children.
Of course. Au revoir, Mr. Norton, and thank you for being so helpful.
It's a pleasure.
Yes,
Santa Maria. Now, I really do understand the description, an English rose.
I should keep that to yourself. Besides, I understand you're getting on very well with Her Excellency. Anyway, Mrs. Bridgerton is devoted to her husband.
As a ship's officer's amico, I've had a wide experience of husbands. It has taught me to respect them when they're present, but when they're absent, well, to ignore them, no?
Signora Bridgerton, please to come in.
Could I speak to Senor Norton?
But he's not here, Signora.
Oh, when will he be back?
Esta noche, Signora.
Noche.
This evening, Signora.
Oh. Well, would you please tell him I have a letter to post?
See. The Senor has told me all about the letters. You will please to give it to me.
Oh, it's very important.
See, I shall see to it. I shall arrange it.
Mrs. Bridgerton.
Oh, hello.
You remember me, Paolo?
Yes, of course.
I saw you enter the office of Signor Norton.
I was sending a letter to my husband.
That is as I imagined, and so I waited. It's almost a week since you arrived, and I haven't seen you again.
Well, I've been so busy looking after the children.
But today, now, not so busy.
Their mother has taken them to see some friends.
Then permit me to take you to see whatever you may wish.
Oh, well, I'm afraid I'm not much of a sightseer.
But my ship, wouldn't you be interested to see that?
Why should I be?
Well, you English are a nation of seafarers.
I'm not. You've forgotten I told you I was a bad sailor.
Signora, I've not forgotten a word you say to me. Nor am I likely to.
I don't remember saying anything very memorable.
We Italians are music lovers. And a voice that is truly simpatica, that is the finest musical instrument of all.
I've never thought of a voice as an instrument.
Do you play the violin?
No.
But you have heard of a Stradivarius?
Oh, yes. It's an antique, isn't it? Very valuable.
Its value, madam, lies in the sheer beauty of the sounds which it produces.
Well, I really meant in money.
Well, music and money have only one connection. Both words begin with the letter M.
Now, I never thought of that either.
You must surely have been told that you have the most beautiful speaking voice.
I have?
That is what I'm trying to tell you.
Oh, you're flattering me. My young brother always says it's like a hen squawking.
Then he must be very young, with no music in his soul.
Oh, he's nearly 11. I'm afraid I don't know much about his soul.
You know, I don't think a dusty street is the place to talk about serious matters.
What serious matters?
Souls and younger brothers who don't know their good fortune to have such a charming elder sister.
You are flattering me.
Come with me to the ship.
Oh.
And after I've shown you her newness and her beauty, I will offer you something for which I guess you have a secret longing.
What's that?
A cup of tea.
Oh, now you really do tempt me.
I hope the tea is to your taste.
It's lovely.
I've taken much trouble to teach our steward to make tea. Even better than the English.
Well, that was clever of you.
Now, I think you are flattering me.
Oh, no, I try to tell the truth.
Except when you're talking to me.
Do you always tell the truth?
To others? No. To you? Yes.
You've said some very nice things to me.
Is that a crime?
Oh, not if you meant them.
For me, to talk to you, it's so natural and easy and delightful.
I'm glad.
How do you feel when you talk to me?
I enjoy it. If you want the truth, the nicer the things you say, the more I enjoy them.
I believe you say that from your heart.
Yes, I suppose I did.
I've heard you laugh.
Yes, I'm not a great one for laughing. In fact, I've been told I haven't got a sense of humour.
I will challenge whoever say that to a duel.
Oh, don't spoil it. We're talking about laughing, not fighting.
If it was your husband...
No, I don't want to talk about him.
Neither do I. There is so much more that we have to talk about together.
Such as?
First, how long do you stay in Santa Isabel?
Nearly 2 more weeks.
Oh, too short.
Oh, it's better than 2 days.
At least you will be here for the fiesta.
The fiesta?
Don't you know about
the
fiesta? It's the great occasion of the year in Santa Isabel, like Micareme on the Riviera.
Oh, I've never been there.
It's gay, it's procession, it's dancing. Oh, it's a great celebration.
And when is it?
Oh, it's Wednesday of next week. It starts at dusk and lasts all through the night until the morning.
Goodness.
His Excellency the Governor and Her Excellency, for them it is, I think you call it an open house.
Yes.
They give a very, very big party, supper, dancing.
And you are invited to this party?
I am. And I shall claim to be your escort.
Oh.
What's the matter?
I wish you hadn't told me about it.
Why?
Well, the children, I may not be able to be there.
You will be there, I told you. Everybody will be there.
Oh, surely. Not everybody. What about your crew?
Oh, Santa Maria, I couldn't stop them even if I tried.
But somebody will have to look after the ship.
Oh, yes, 2, perhaps 3 watchmen.
Isn't that a risk?
A risk? Of what?
Well, suppose thieves...
Carissima, there is no thief in Santa Isabel or anywhere else that can steal an ocean liner.
Yes, I really meant that... what's the time?
Oh, it's still early, not yet 6:30.
Oh, but that's terrible. trouble? I was due back at 6 o'clock to give the children their supper.
They don't need supper, those children. They're already too far.
Oh, no, I must go. This very minute.
I will escort you.
Oh, no, you mustn't.
Why not?
Well, they would know then that I'd been with you.
I don't care.
But I do. Her Excellency would be very angry.
Now, listen, Carissima,
Oh,
I
you
can't...
mustn't call me that. Thank you, and goodbye.
When shall I see you again?
I don't know.
I insist. It's you that I shall escort for the fiesta.
Well, I'll tell you this. There's nothing I should like more. And that's the truth. Oh, Mr. Norton. Oh, thank goodness you're back.
Mrs. Bridgerton, I was just about to close the office.
I had to catch you.
You're quite out of breath. Please, sit down.
No. Listen, I've done a stupid thing.
We all do that sometimes.
Well, this afternoon I left a letter with your clerk for my husband.
My clerk has assured me it's already in the post.
Oh, dear. I did hope I might rescue it. I forgot to put something very important in it.
Well, why not send a telegram?
Oh, could I? You see, I forgot to wish my husband many happy returns for his birthday.
That would never do. Now, what do you wish to say?
Oh, let me see. Forgot to send birthday wishes for Wednesday next. Wednesday is Fiesta Day here, that's right, isn't it?
It certainly is. Everyone will be in the streets singing and dancing the night away.
Yes. Could you put that in, too?
Right. Also, there'll be fireworks. Make a hell of a noise, fireworks.
Yes, they do, don't they? Mention that as well. My husband loves fireworks.
I thought you might. Anything else?
Oh, just wish you were here, love, May.
Mr. Grant Ellison in?
No, sir, but soon, sir. Very soon.
I'll wait.
If you please. Through here, sir.
Right here.
Morning. Any post?
Your letters are on your desk, sir. Also a telegram.
Right.
Oh, and the gentleman is waiting to see you.
Oh? Tom, I thought you were still in the Cameroons.
That's all fixed up. I came to pick up May, but the Lucases tell me she's not in Lagos.
Nothing to worry about. I'll put you in the picture.
And about this?
What is it?
A telegram from May, here, lying on your desk.
You'd no right to open that.
Damn it, it's addressed to me. I think the woman's gone mad.
What did she say?
Forgot to send birthday wishes for Wednesday next. She knows perfectly well my birthday's on Christmas Day.
What else did she say?
Wednesday is Fiesta Day. Everyone will be in the streets, singing and dancing. Lots of fireworks. Wish you could be here, love May.
You gods, lots of fireworks. She's the tops, your wife. Get Commander Anderson at Naval Headquarters on the telephone, quick.
Very good, sir.
Tell him I'm on my way to see him. Then telephone the tugmaster's office and ask him to meet me on the quayside at 11 o'clock.
This telegram was sent from Santa Isabel. What the hell's going on?
Oh, I got her a job there, to keep her from worrying while you were away.
What sort of job?
Oh, she's with the governor of Fernando Po's wife. She's half English and she wanted someone to look after her kids while their English governess was in hospital.
Have you gone crazy, Mervyn? I won't have my wife acting as a ruddy nursemaid.
Well, it was such excellent cover I couldn't afford to waste it.
Cover?
She's also doing a job for me.
What sort of job?
Nothing to worry about.
I want to know what the job is.
She's helping me pinch an Italian liner.
Very funny.
Excuse me, sir. Commander Anderson will be going out in half an hour. He says, please, to put the skids on.
Right. Now the tugmaster, and quick.
As you say, sir. Quick as lightning.
Sorry, Tom, I'll have to dash.
Like hell you will. You've no right to give May a job without consulting me.
For God's sake, Tom, be your age. There's a war on.
I don't give a damn about the war, not where May's concerned. Either you tell me what you've got her mixed up in, or I shall bloody well go to Fernando Po and fetch her back myself.
All in good time. All in good time.
You tell me right now, Mervyn.
I will tell you everything over lunch at the club. Now be a good chap and let me go. I've got work to do.
Have the other half, Tom. You look as though you need it.
You bet I will.
Boy, 2 large pink gins, please.
Tell me, Mervyn, you're really serious about this lot?
Totally serious. One doesn't often get a chance like this.
I must admit it's not a bad idea. Are you sure the Navy will play?
Quite sure. I got it all fixed this morning.
And the SNO has given it his official blessing?
Of course he hasn't. Thank you. In no circumstances can anything be official. It's
a lucky coincidence that one of their craft will be patrolling just outside the 3-mile limit next Wednesday night.
Yes, I understand. So, you're all set?
Not quite. I ran into a snag this morning.
What sort of snag?
The tugmaster's being difficult.
Paddy Thompson?
That's right. Says he hasn't got an ocean-going tug available.
I'm pretty sure I could fix something.
Hmm?
He was my fag at school.
Then have a crack at him immediately after lunch.
Okay. Wait a minute. This is your show. I'm not in on it.
Of course you are. I thought you were still tied up in the Cameroons, or I'd have brought you in from the start.
We settled the business rather sooner than expected.
I gather that from an action point of view it was rather a flop.
There wasn't any fighting, if that's what you mean.
If there had been, no doubt your chaps could have coped.
I'll say they could. I had a first-class bunch.
This show's bound to be a bit different, you know.
How so?
Even if there's only a skeleton crew, there's certain to be a punch-up.
While the hawsers are being cut and a tow rope fixed?
That's right. And I've got to find some reliable chaps for that job.
How many?
Half a dozen.
I can find them for you. That is, if Jimmy Sen doesn't object.
He won't. I got the governor to speak to him this morning.
Are you suggesting I come along with you?
Why not? It's better than you careering off to Santa Isabel on your own and mucking up the whole operation.
There's nothing I'd like better, but...
But what?
I'm still not happy about May.
You should be. She's doing a marvellous job.
Maybe.
If it hadn't been for May, we'd never have known that next Wednesday was the day to choose.
She may feel I've let her down.
She thinks you're still in the Cameroons.
You've no right to ask her to do it without my consent.
Okay, I was in the wrong. But you must admit I'm doing my best to make up for it by taking you along to share in May's fiesta.
Is someone there?
May?
Who is it?
Paolo!
Oh.
Why are you not at the governance party?
Oh, I'm in disgrace.
Why?
I have been since the other evening when I was late for the children's supper.
But this is ridiculous.
Well, I couldn't let you know. Her Excellency told me to wait in my room so that if the children got tired, I could put them to bed.
On fiesta night, it is unheard of.
There's nothing I can do. She's still very angry because I said I'd been having tea with you.
I too am hungry. I shall take my revenge on her. I shall collect my men and march them back to the ship.
Oh, no, Paolo, you mustn't do that.
Anything to spoil a fiesta for her.
Please, Paolo, no.
Then you come down now and come with me.
But we'll be seen.
Not if we go to the ship.
What?
That is what I plan we should do. There is a fiesta supper waiting for you in the cabin. The champagne is already on ice. And think of the great kindness you'll be doing for my crew who can stay at the fiesta.
I hadn't thought of that.
They will regard you as their patron saint. So, carissima, avanti, andiamo, eh?
Why are we slowing down, Mervyn?
We're just entering the harbour. I want to use the shelter of the breakwater.
What's the point?
You seem to have forgotten, Tom, that the Spaniards have a battery of artillery up on the hill.
With all the shindig that's going on, I doubt if there's anyone up there.
No point in running risks. I want to get as close as we can to the ship, so that Chris can swim out to the anchor chain and fix the jelly.
Fair enough. It'll also help my boarding team. The quicker we can get on board and cope with the watch, the better.
Jim and his lot can't cut the hawsers till you do. Then they'll help you fix the tow rope.
I'm sorry about one thing.
What's that?
I've been thinking about May. I wish we could have arranged to pick the old girl up too.
Don't be a bloody fool. There's no point in her blowing her cover unnecessarily. She's much better off where she is.
Oh, sorry. Wasn't expecting that.
It's not as loud as fireworks, but it's just as exciting.
What time is it?
I don't know. I don't care. Except that our fiesta has just started. Now, I propose you a toast. To Paolo and Francesca.
To Paolo and Francesca. Who are they?
Have you not heard of Paolo and Francesca?
No, not that I can remember.
Their story is part of our Italian heritage.
Oh, you mean a legend?
More than that, it's one of the great love stories of the ages.
Oh.
And that is all that you can say? Oh?
Well, will you like it better if I say, please give me some more champagne?
If it is to drown your sorrows.
Oh, I didn't say that.
I would still have given it to you.
Why?
Because he would be ashamed to spoil their love story.
What a funny thing to say.
No, love is never funny. It's often, what's the word I want?
Overvalued.
Certainly not. That is impossible.
Oh. Misunderstood?
If you like. There are so many different sides to love. It's sometimes forgotten that in real love, there is often great tenderness.
Yes. But there's also such a lot that has to be just practical.
Practical?
Well, if it isn't practical, it can't get anywhere, can it? What's the time?
Forget the time.
Yes, that's what I'm nearly doing.
Time, practical things. What they have to do with romance.
Oh, is there such a thing?
Only you can answer that, Francesca.
I've never really thought about it much. Till tonight.
You realize what you have just said?
Yes. I don't think I did when I said it.
For me, true romance is the rarest and the most beautiful thing in the world.
Oh, yes. Very rare. But...
But what?
Oh, Paolo, the last thing in the world I want is to hurt you.
We are not talking of hurt, but of fulfillment.
We have an expression in English. Throwing one's cup over the windmill.
Please?
Oh, well, it means forgetting all the practical things. Going quite mad and enjoying it.
Have you ever done that?
No.
Could you ever do that?
Oh, that's the trouble. Tonight I think I could.
Oh, Francesca. My sweet, sweet Francesca. Now I put my arms around you.
Oh.
I hold you very, very close.
Mm.
And then I kiss you.
Hey, what was that? Where are you going? Hey, where are you going?
I'm sorry, Paolo. Terribly sorry.
You have locked the door. Let me out.
No, I can't. I can't.
What's happening? Lock the door.
No, I can't. For your sake, I can't, Paolo.
What the hell's going on here?
Tom!
Good God, May.
I didn't know.
What the blazes are you doing on the ship?
Well, I had to come to keep an eye. Look out, one of the watch.
That'll keep him quiet for a bit.
Open the door. Let me out.
Who the devil?
It's the ship's officer. I've locked him in his cabin.
Mervyn said he'd be at the fiesta with all the others.
Yes, so he was, with me.
Why you?
Well, so that I could keep an eye on him. I let him escort me, and then he insisted that we come on the ship and have supper in his cabin.
Damn cheek. Doesn't he know that you're married?
Of course he does.
You shouldn't have come with him.
Oh, I had to, Tom. I had to keep him occupied until the tug arrived. And then suddenly there was a big explosion quite close.
That was our chap blowing the anchor chain.
Yes, I guessed it must be. So I ran out and locked him in. Oh, the ship's moving.
That means they've cut the hawsers and rigged a tow line.
Francesca! I beg you, listen, Francesca, and lock the door.
Francesca?
He doesn't know what he's saying. He's hysterical.
I better go in and shut his mouth.
Oh, no, Tom, leave him. He can't do any harm, not now.
Sure he didn't bother you?
Quite sure.
I must say, old girl, you put up a damn good show.
I did my best, Tom.
I'm jolly proud of you.
Thank you.
Now, let's go down to the foredeck and see how we're going. There's a stiffish breeze and it's quite choppy, even in the harbour.
I'm afraid I'll have to find somewhere to lie down.
Lie down.
I'm beginning to feel a bit sick.
I'd forgotten. Poor old girl. What with being a bad sailor and having had to cope with that dago, no wonder you're feeling under the weather. But it'll soon be over now. Once we're back in Lagos, we'll settle down to a normal life again.
And that's just what we did, Mr. Grinton. And it lasted 30 happy years.
The Navy took over the ship.
Oh, everything went according to plan.
And Paolo with it.
Well, I imagine so. I never saw or heard of him again.
And your husband, he didn't hold your supper party in the cabin against you.
On the contrary, it became one of his standard jokes. He dined out on that story for years.
But it only goes to show you can't go wrong by telling the truth.
Yes, that's what I've always believed. The trouble is, on this occasion, it wasn't the whole truth.
How do you mean?
Well, I've never told anyone before. In all fairness, I suppose I have to tell you. I enjoyed every second that I spent with Paolo.
But I thought, well, you were playing him up to gain time.
Oh, I was. But at the same time I was revelling in it. Never in my life, before or since, have I felt like I did when I was with Paolo. If that tug had been delayed, my cap would have been right over the windmill.
Well, I'm glad.
It's been on my conscience all my life, Mr. Grinton. And now that I've lived through it all over again, put it into words for the first time, I've suddenly realized that I must be a very wicked woman. I probably deserve everything that's going to happen to me. Oh, dear.
Mrs. Bridgerton,
Sorry,
Now, please, there's no need to upset yourself.
Well,
Just stay here a minute.
Yes.
Mr. Grinton, is there anything...
It's the old lady, Miss Oliver. She's broken down.
Oh, you mean she's fainted?
No, she's crying her eyes out. There in my office. Take her a glass of water or something and see if you can calm her down.
I'll attend to her, Mr. Grinton.
And then take her down to the main entrance, put her in a taxi and pay for it.
You're letting her go, then?
I am.
You're satisfied?
I'm not satisfied about anything. All I want is to be rid of her.
I'll see to it, Mr. Grinton.
That the Commissioner? Mr. Grinton, my secretary will be bringing down a customer. I want her put in a taxi. Yes, I know they're difficult to get at this time of day. Get one now and keep it waiting. Call me back when you've got one.
She's gone, Mr. Grinton.
You mean on her own?
She's pulled herself together. She asked me to give you her apologies for losing control, and she wouldn't hear of my getting her a taxi.
Oh, well, that was up to her, as long as...
I'm sorry to bother you again, Mr. Grinton, but I think you've got something of mine.
Well, what, Mrs. Bridgerton?
My shopping bag. Oh, yes, there it is on that chair.
Well, I'll just take the goods out of it.
Don't bother. Give Mrs. Bridgerton the bag just as it is.
But the goods aren't paid for, Mr. Grinton.
I'll see to that. Leave it to me.
Now, that's what I call a truly generous gesture, Mr. Grinton. Well, I can't truthfully say it's been a pleasure to meet you, but at least we part on good terms. Good day to you both. Good day.
What an extraordinary lady. She recovered remarkably quickly. I wonder...
So do I, Miss Oliver. So do I.
In The Shoplifter by A.R. Rawlinson, the part of May Bridgerton was played by Elizabeth Proud and Harvey Grinton by James Cousins. Tom Bridgerton was played by Christopher Good, Mervyn by Sean Barrett, Paolo by Leonardo Pieroni, Norton by John Rowe, and Miss Oliver by Hilary Sester. Jimmy Send was played by Patrick Barr, Mrs. Send by Cecile Chevreau, May's mother by Irene Sutcliffe, her father by James Thomason, her sister by Anne Rosenfeld, and her brother by Earl Rhodes. The ship's officer was played by Steve Hodson, the Spanish governor's wife by Carol Boyd, the British governor by William Fox, the minister by Michael Harbour, the man in the restaurant by Simon Jones, and the secretary and clerk by Ilario Bisi Pedro.